Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Monday Night Racing Season 6 playoffs. My name is Eric Eastep. I am your host. To begin tonight, in just a few moments, we'll be bringing in the broadcast booth. We'll also talk to one of your playoff drivers tonight. Watkins Glen, the final race of the round of 12, an elimination race. That means 4 of your currently 12 playoff drivers will be going home. If you missed it in week 1, 2 weeks ago, I guess, out of Richmond, it was Chase Cabry getting the win to lock his way into the second round. And then last Monday night at Daytona, in dramatic fashion, it was Presley Sora, the season 5 champion, squeaking ahead of the pack to get the win. So it's going to be a great show tonight. We've got tons of real world NASCAR racing stars, drivers. We've got lots of great sim racers and folks from all around the motorsports industry competing in Monday Night Racing. So I cannot wait for you guys to take a look at the field we've got tonight. And it's road course racing, so it's going to look a bit different. Really excited to see so many familiar faces in the chat once again this week, tuning in for the third Monday night in a row. I mentioned the playoffs. Before we bring in one of our playoff drivers, I want to look at the playoff grid, get everyone up to speed just a little bit here. I mentioned Chase Cabry and Presley Sora, both locked in with victories over the past 2 weeks. Adam Cabot, who we'll talk to in just a moment, currently plus 19 over Garrett Smithley, if my math is correct. Matt Stallnick, Joey Padgett, Ryan Vargas, Corey Heim, and Leighton Sabile currently hold the 8 transfer spots, but I just mentioned him. Garrett Smithley, hungry to transfer over. Colin Fern, who I'm not sure if he's on the entry list for tonight, unfortunately, is also below the cut line. Then David Shieldhouse, I know a fan favorite over here on YouTube and Twitch, and Nick Olson also looking to make something big happen tonight at Watkins Glen. They may need to win if they're going to transfer into that second round. It's going to be a great show tonight. In just a few moments, we'll have qualifying, and then we'll have, then of course, the race will go green. You saw some practice clips there during the kind of warm-up screen of drivers and cars slipping and sliding around Watkins Glen. Did I mention that they're running the boot? Not just the NASCAR layout. No, a couple extra turns, a little extra excitement tonight at Watkins Glen. Before we bring in the booth, though, let's talk to one of our playoff drivers. Mentioned him just a moment ago. Adam Cabot currently sits 19 points above the cut line. Adam, it's Eric Eastep here in the pre-race show. Do you got a copy?
I got you, Eric.
Awesome. Great to have you on the show. Just mentioned it. You're above the cut line right now, have a better cushion than most. So how do you approach tonight's race at Watkins Glen?
Honestly, I'm just going to be taking it easy tonight. Hopefully not using up too much of that 19-point cushion that I built up, but haven't really prepared for this week like I would most. I was a little preoccupied with doing my first iRacing Daytona 24. which was certainly an experience to say the least. But after driving that BMW, whatever that car was, that hybrid car, this thing is actually pretty tame in comparison. So looking to really just keep all 4 tires on the track and maybe come on with a solid top 10, top 15. Like I said, I'd be surprised if we had race winning speed tonight. I like to do well at the road courses, but really tonight I just need to have a solid night, nothing too flashy, and hopefully that's what we can achieve here today.
Cool, calm, and consistent. That's what'll get the job done tonight, given your current point situation. For fans who may be tuning into Monday Night Racing for the first time or who are relatively new to the series, how do you feel your road course racing stacks up against the rest of the competition? It sounds like you've gotten some laps, plenty of road course racing laps at Daytona over the last few nights, but maybe not Watkins Glen. What can you let the fans in a little bit?
Yeah, so the last road course we ran this series was up in Canada, Canadian Tire, with the next gen car, and that was pretty much the road course race of my life. Almost had that thing won, was so close, and Sage Karam ended up getting me at the end, and he's super talented, and I'm sure he'll be in contention to win tonight. So my road course skills definitely been really developing them the last year or two, I'd say, and I'm really happy with where I'm, the progress that I've made, and I feel like if I put a lot of time and effort into road course race, I think last time, like I said, last time at Canadian Tire, I showed that I can have the speed to contend for a win. But didn't really have the time to put in the prep for this week. So like I said, just looking for something consistent. But who knows if stuff gets crazy? I mean, that bus stop is pretty darn sketchy going over those curbs. So anything can happen in these races. I've definitely learned that over the last couple seasons. So like I said, just looking for a safe, clean race and hopefully just have the points at the end to advance to the next round.
Sounds good to me. Well, if anyone in this field knows what it takes to go deep in the Monday Night Racing playoffs, it's you. Adam Cabot, thanks for joining the pre-race show, and good luck tonight at Watkins Glen, man.
Yep. Thanks, Eric.
Awesome stuff. So that's one of your playoff drivers coming in with a nice cushion, but you heard him. He's not going to try and put too much on the line. Doesn't want to risk those 19 points if he can avoid it. I just got a note actually from our broadcast team that there are no fast repairs tonight. So I believe this is the 3rd week in a row where these drivers will not have that crutch of a free reset. They're going to have to take care of not just their tires, not just their equipment, but the body parts. I guess I don't actually know what they put. Is it sheet metal on these cars? I don't exactly know. But should be a great show. With that being said, before qualifying kicks off here in the next few moments, I think we should bring in the 3 men who will be calling the action tonight. As always, we've got Blake McCandless, Jacob Hitz, and Kenneth Bueno. Blake, it's great to see you. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, Eric, and happy Monday to everybody out there taking in this 3rd race of the Season 6 playoffs in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. I'm Blake McCandless, that's Kenneth Bueno, and Jacob Hitz. And guys, we are here for something that is much different than what we've become accustomed to in the playoffs, a road course car, something that's entirely out of these drivers' comfort zones, and it couldn't come at a more pivotal point in the playoffs, Kenneth.
It's just adding on to the list of the wild card races that we've had in this round of 12 today. We had Daytona last week with the ARCA cars. That was a show that we probably weren't expecting to have, at least in terms of who was going to be on top. It was very unpredictable. Tonight is going to be the same. It's been a while since we've seen this Porsche 911 RSR and M&R competition overall, even in the playoffs, by a fact. So it's going to be a very big question to see how drivers are going to handle that over the course of the run, if they're very comfortable with these cars, and ultimately what they're willing to do if they're those drivers below the cut line or if those above to protect or to try and get over that run to the advance into the round of 8. It's going to be unbelievable to see how they do it, but that makes it all the more fun when we have this type of track and this type of car.
Well, and it really does. And speaking of fun, Jacob, I know the last time we were out thinking about Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, the next-gen cars, the last time that we were at a road course in this series, same kind of format that we have tonight. It's a timed race. We're not going for laps. We're just going for 80 minutes or an hour 20, whatever you want to call it. The biggest theme of that night, Jacob, was mistakes. And I think that's one thing these drivers really have to be thinking about, that you can have all the speed you want, but you have to be solid and go out and execute for 80 minutes. It's a decent challenge for these drivers.
Would help if you could hear me, huh? There we go. How about
yeah,
that?
it kind of does.
There we go.
Anyway, it is what it is. We only got a couple of weeks left. Wheels are already falling off the bus. Anyway, the difference between here at Watkins Glen and CTMP a couple of weeks ago, CTMP has no runoff, at least on iRacing. You make a mistake, you're in the grass, and you're probably going to go into the wall. We saw that a lot in turn 2. Here at Watkins Glen, it's updated, it's rescanned within the last couple of years, so it has all of this runoff area. The amount of grass on this racetrack compared to 10 or 12 years ago, not nearly the same. So there's a little more give with this racetrack. Turn 1, you have a lot of room. If you miss the corner a little bit, a lot of room before you get to that wall. Same deal in turn, what is 10 for us tonight since we're using the boot. The dog leg, or not the dog leg, but the bus stop can be a little hairy at times. That might be your biggest trouble spot. But when we were here in Watkins Glen in Season 5 in the Pro 2 trucks, things really were pretty calm, all things considered. We had a competition caution in that race like we will tonight, and it wasn't quite about attrition like it was at CTMP. There, it was just picking the right strategy and being in the right place at the right time, and we saw that with James Bickford and Shane Van Gisbergen with a great finish here in Season 5. We'll see what comes of it tonight.
We will, and let's go ahead and take a look at the playoff standings coming into today. We know Eric talked about it with you guys a little bit earlier, but looking at that cut line and how many points there are to make up. So many guys from Matt Stallneck down to Leighton Spile. I mean, you think 3rd down to 8th is separated by just 3 points in our playoff grid. Everybody beneath Kenneth, they have a lot of ground to try to make up tonight.
It's definitely true, but if you look at the drivers above the cut line, and those are in attendance under the cut line, Garrett Smithley, David Schildhouse, Nick Olsen, it shows you that nobody is really safe in these playoffs. It looked like ARCA at Daytona last week was the great equalizer and just shuffling the entire order around. It was the same deal with Richmond 2 weeks ago, and tonight is probably going to be the same. So you're right, though. There is a lot of work that guys like Smithley, Schildhouse, and Olsen are going to have to do. Colin Fern not in attendance tonight, so it looks like his chances for a championship in M&R for Season 6 are exactly dashed by the time we finish this race from the Glen. But there is a lot of work, at least in some cases, but I really don't think there is a clear-cut margin of deficit, at least in terms of a large one. Everyone is almost on the same page, if not right there with each other. And so that means that if you're any one of these guys, unlike Presley Soar and Chase Caber, you got to be on your game. Be sure you execute.
Well, and I think it goes beyond being on your game. If you look at those bottom 2, Jacob, David Schildhouse, Nick Olsen, 30 points or more beneath the cut line. I mean, you're pretty much looking at a must-win scenario if you're one of those 2 drivers. And especially at a road course, the opportunity for that to happen, if you don't have the pace, is just so slim.
Yeah, you absolutely need to win if you're Nick Olsen or you're David Schildhouse. And, you know, going solely off of practice speeds, you look up at the board, and Schildhouse is a little bit quicker than Nick Olsen, but neither of them are really in contention compared to the fastest laps so far through practice. So they're going to need a lot of help, I think, in order to have a shot to get in. Garrett Smithley, I think, in the best case right now, and Colin Fern would have had a good shot if he were here, but he's not. So it's looking like Colin Fern, you're right, is not going to have a shot to move on to the round of 8. Somebody who was part of the championship 4 a season ago. That's a big, big competitor to be losing tonight, looking ahead to the round of 8 and to the championship 4 in a couple of weeks.
Somebody that has been a part of the championship for each of the last 2 seasons in Colin Fern. He will not be able to get back on the stage and see if he can defend his title in Season 6. But when we look out at this racetrack, there's a lot of different versions of Watkins Glen International, Kenneth, that is available on iRacing. This is the version we were using tonight. I know Jacob talked about running the boot. We're also running the bus stop, but take us through here a lap at WGI.
This is a beautiful racetrack in Watkins Glen International, and just like Jacob said a little earlier on, this track had a recent rejuvenation from the iRacing service. Used to have a very old scan, but now we've got the most recent scan from a couple of years back. It's 3.450 miles, a little longer than what we had the last time we were at this track with the Pro 2 trucks. Of course, adding in that booth, we go for 5.55 kilometers around this track. A very interesting turn 1 entrance where there's some slight banking, you're hard on the brakes, then you go fast through the S's. It's a very quick sector of the course. course. Then you kind of slow things down, get a little more technical with this second half. By the time you enter the bus stop, you get out of that carousel, and then you enter a very slow part, and that is the boot. Somewhat hairpin corners, they're very slow, hard braking zones, opportunities to pass, but it is going to be a different challenge for the drivers tonight. And then you have obviously merged back onto the part of the track where we had last time we were here. You get back out of the corner, you're on the front straightaway for the start-finish line. This track opened all the way back in 1956, but it has provided amazing racing, whatever car you put on it. 11 turns on tap, 40 miles per hour in the pit road speed limit, and this is, of course, another road course added on to the season, which means, Blake, probably more uncertainty based on what we saw at Canadian Tire not too long ago.
Definitely so. It is going to be a big challenge for these drivers to drive around this road course for 80 minutes tonight. Going to be tough. But we'll see if these drivers can handle it. We know they are some of the best in the business. Of course, we can't go any further without mentioning our Grid Rival featured matchups that you can, again, watch. We know that all season long, Jacob, we've been looking at these matchups head-to-head and looking at all the odds and stuff. But we've had a little bit of fun with it, haven't we?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And looking at what we've got on tap, the one at the bottom, I think, is really the most interesting, Schildhouse and Cabot, just because Cabot's at the top of the playoffs, pretty much locked in as long as he has a decent finish. Schildhouse, on the other hand, in real big trouble. Sora, of course, we saw him win last week at Daytona. James Bickford, always strong at the road courses. He's somebody that could be an upset as far as a driver winning outside the playoff picture. A couple of playoff guys in there, in Joey Padgett as well, up against George Balfans Jr., who was in the playoffs last year. And Will Rogers, Preston Pardus, that's the road ringer matchup right there between Rogers and Pardus. Both of them very, very strong when it comes to turning left and right here in M&R.
That they have been. They have been awfully competitive. And, of course, we are proud to partner with Grid Rival, the most in-depth fantasy motorsports manager game on the planet. Grid Rival is full of engaging features that bring a new level of engagement to your favorite racing series. Grid Rival is proud to support Monday Night Racing, and you can, of course, check out Grid Rival in the App Store or on Google Play with an Android phone. If you want some more real-life racing matchups to be able to spice things up. I mean, heck, NASCAR's right around the corner. I know we have a lot of motorsports that are about to kick off. Heck, we have the 24 Hours of Daytona coming up here just around the corner. Going to be very fun. And, of course, you can join in on all the fun with our friends over at Grid Rival. When we come back, we are set to go green here in the Roasted Gems Coffee Challenge at Watkins Glen International.
Visit our website at tuffcoflooring.com.
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More even more pros. Keep going, Moss. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street, everywhere. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable.
Back with you here at Watkins Glen International, and qualifying is underway, and in just a couple of minutes we will be ready to reveal the BST Shocks starting grid to you. But before we do that, this is where we reveal who's going to let me down and who everybody else is going to try to pick tonight. It is not it's not been so great these last couple of weeks, but here we go. Kenneth, I'll give you first dibs. Oh man, DJ Cummings, interesting choice tonight.
I know, out of left field, but for a reason. DJ Cummings is a driver that has finished in the top 10 for all but one of the Porsche 911 RSR races run in M&R history. So he's got a lot of experience and a lot of skill behind the wheel of this car, despite a lot of people maybe thinking about the road course ringers and those drivers that always dominate those races. He has an average finish of 6, by the way, Blake, in every race run in this Porsche 911 RSR. So safe to say DJ Cummings is a driver of consistency with this car on the road courses. And by the way, comes off of a second place finish last week at the Daytona International Speedway. So I'm going to hop on the 8 o'clock momentum train. I'm going to go with Cummings to take the win this evening.
All right, so DJ Cummings, driver number 10 for Kenneth. Jacob, Sage Karam, I don't think after CTMP this is much of a surprise.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've done enough screwing around with my picks these last couple of weeks, and put together some stinker picks for these last couple of weeks. So I got to get back to basics. Put away this fantasy series championship. I'm going with Sage Karam tonight, guys.
And Eric, you're going with our pre-race guest, Adam Cabot.
Yeah, I made this prediction before I interviewed Adam, and he told me basically, hey, I'm going to take it easy tonight. I didn't do a whole lot of prep. So one thing I know for sure is that Adam Cabot will be cool, calm, and collected. He's not going to make any mistakes. So maybe, hopefully, there's a lot of corners, a lot of room for error at Watkins Glen. Maybe some of the favorites do misstep, and Adam Cabot will be there right around the top 10, ready to take advantage.
Well, after what we saw at CTMP, I think that's what you need, somebody that's just going to go out there and not take too many risks. Of course, Cabot in a very good points position coming in, so all he has to do is just dot his I's and cross his T's, and he should be out of here and on to the round of 8 of the playoffs. And, of course, I just went with the guy who was at the top of the charts in practice. That was Corey Heim. We'll see where it all shakes out once qualifying has wrapped up, which is about to do so here in about 15 seconds or so. Will officially conclude all of the time that is available for these drivers to qualify. And of course, we want to note to you that we will be starting on the grid tonight. There will not be a pace lap. It will be a standing start tonight. So we will get things rolling relatively quickly here at Watkins Glen International. As you see, the yellow is out, and we will start gridding. This is your BST Shock starting grid tonight for the final race of the round of 12 in the M&R playoffs in Season 6, and it is going to be 2 of our picks. Sage Karam gets the quick time tonight. He will start in the first position, and the winner of your Roasted Jim's Coffee Pole Award, and alongside him will go Corey Heim from second in car 51. Rolling off from third, the 02 of Connor Berry will start next to another accomplished road course driver here in Monday Night Racing. That is Will Rogers. Starting in 5th tonight, nothing to worry about for driver number 39. That is Chase Cabry. Ronnie Osmer will start in the 6th position tonight. Rolling off 7th is James Bickford, followed by Reed Wilson in the 8th spot. And how about Anthony Alfredo finally figuring out some of those internet gremlins? He starts 9th, and Joey Padgett will round out your top 10.
The 78 of Garrett Smithley rolls from behind the cut line in the playoffs. He starts from P11 this evening. Adam Cabot, Eric Estep's pick, will be outside in P number 12. David Schildhouse also needing to get over the hump in that cut line. He rolls off from 13. Presley Sorrell locked into the next round after that win at Daytona 1 week ago. He is over in P14. Nick Olson and Lane Sabile, the 24 and the 25 of the 2 drivers, to double up in row number 8 before you find Ryan Vargas with a brand new sponsor. Congratulations, FFO, for the 26th this evening. evening from 17th. Gary Sexton will roll alongside him in P18. Bailey Turner out of the 5 machine. He'll be in P19. Brandon Brown will be the last driver Jacob hits to round out the top 20.
Robbie Lyons, former champ, will roll off from P21. Stephen Ellis will line up to his outside in that 46. League owners, Ford Martin, Matt Stallneck making up row number 12 back here. And Stallneck looking pretty good as far as playoffs are concerned. Just needs another solid finish tonight to cap it all off for the round of 8. Justin Malillo, Mark Rubilis back in row 13. Case Kallenbach, Chris Weaver make up row number 14. Max Kennan, who was in the playoffs last year. And Michael Massey, part of our post-race show, will round out the top 30, Blake.
Alex LeBay will start 31st. Again, first of all drivers that did not put down a qualifying time. DJ Cummings goes 32nd. Joshua Slate will start in 33rd, followed by George Belafans Jr. in 34th. Michael Fisher starts 35th. 36th is Brett Baldeck. And your final 2, row number 19, Devin Henry and Steve Affont. So relatively full field, guys, this late in the year at a road course. Good to see the participation is still plentiful for this playoff race. You can see the weather right here. And one thing I've kind of noted here, Kenneth, all throughout practice, it's been particularly cloudy. There's been a lot of cloud cover here on this racetrack. Cooling it down, going to provide some extra grip for these drivers.
And as well, we're going green around 4 p.m. in sim time. So with this cloud cover, this overcast condition here from Watkins Glen, it is going to help on the grip side. But of course, you are not necessarily away from all the mistakes, away from all the trouble. You look at the race analysis on the bottom right of your screen. 80 minutes for this race, halfway caution at 35 minutes, which is going to help on strategy case, 50% on the fuel, 4 sets on pit road. And that shows me, Blake, one thing and one thing only. This race is going to depend on strategy. The yellows are only going to fall one time in the middle of this race, and that's about it.
It's going to depend on strategy. It's going to depend on just outright pace. I think that'll be what most likely decides this race. I know that sounds pretty rudimentary, but we'll see who is up for it. And if these drivers can get out of turn 1, I mean, this is going to be probably the biggest moment of this race, is once this grid countdown is finalized and you can see just a couple seconds left before we get things going. The final race of the round of 12 is set to go in just a couple of moments. Clock is down, and within just a couple seconds, Barney, the flagman, will put us under the green flag, and there it is. We are off and running here at Watkins Glen. Oh, and a big move here off the start. A couple of drivers did not get a great launch into turn number 1. Corey Hyman's able to go on by as they're stacking up 3 and 4 wide further back in the field.
As they go up to the S's for the first time, lap 1, you saw Connor Berry in that black number 02 went for 3 wide, especially when they went for turn 1. He's able to take over third. The whole field single files out, and Blake over the first lap. The one thing you do not want to do is...
We've got a crash. We've got a crash in the S's. Couple of cars have crashed. One stopped against the inside wall. It's Max Kennan in turn 4. One car got turned right away. It was Ryan Vargas, one of your playoff drivers, who got the initial contact. Playoff drivers made contact, and everybody crashed trying to avoid. Kennan got involved as well. Chris Weaver back here in the 8. Couple of cars involved, but a lot of damage for Ryan Vargas, making contact with the 83 of Joey Paget.
Yeah, we talked about mistakes and how important that was going to be and how well your night went. We're going to see this heading right up into the S's. And you see, I got a little bit of contact there in the left rear, and that's enough to pretty much ruin the car, Kenneth. I mean, when you talk about the damage in these things, Vargas is going to continue running. It's going to slow him down, but I think the suspension is a particular problem on that car. You can see a lot of damage, especially in the rear end of that car with those hard impacts, and I think just driving the car is going to be a significant challenge for Vargas, let alone trying to finish well with it.
Yeah, it is, and when you talk about the lack of a fast repair, it only makes this situation worse for the driver of the 26 you look on board, and so far it doesn't seem to be too detrimental, but like you said, a lot of damage to the rear end of that car, most notably the wing. That is really going to affect the aerodynamic downforce components on this Porsche 911 RSR. And as well, this car is not as hefty as some others that we've run in the sim and in M&R prior. You think about last time we were at Watkins Glen, a Pro 2 truck that is relatively hefty, relatively strong, a next-gen car last time we were on a road course that could take a beating before it finally picks up a lot of damage for it to really affect you negatively. So for Vargas, a playoff driver, that's going to hurt. And you watch Sage Karam go over the crest.
Oh, we have a spinner. It's Will Rogers. Rogers is around. Somehow, nobody else piles into him, and Rogers will keep rolling. That was at the exit of the bus stop. As you can see, Karam kind of missed it to the right, and Will Rogers was a little bit too far to the left. And Jacob, we kind of talked about this pre-race, how difficult it was going to be for these drivers to navigate through the bus stop because you can use the curbing so much more on this newer scan, but you don't want to use that much or get into the grass like Will Rogers just did. And, ooh, that's Connor Berry that came plowing in and got a little bit of damage out of that.
Yeah, Connor Berry did get a piece, and it looked like, as you see a car off, I think that was Max Kennan that was parked there. I know he's been having a heck of a start. I think he's gone off a couple different times. But if you watch there with Will Rogers, how that thing gets turned around, he gets the left side tires, the driver's side tires, in the grass. And it looks like that's really what kind of kicks that car sideways. And from there, he just can't hold on. And he's somebody that is really, really strong on the road courses. And he's having a rough go of it to start. Was running in second when that happened, and now he's stuck back here in the weeds.
Yeah, he was kind of holding up a pack right there, and you have to wonder, I think he may be coming in for service here, and yes, he is. On lap number 2, Will Rogers, that's all he makes. We know how strong he is, how quick he is. He is down in the pit lane, and so is Connor Berry, who towed back to the pits. So a couple of early issues for several of these drivers, Eric.
Absolutely. The chat is definitely surprised by how clean they were through turn 1 on lap 1. Looked like just 3 and 4 wide throughout the entire pack, but it didn't take long for playoff contender Ryan Vargas to get some early damage. That's going to be an interesting story to watch. We also had a great question. I wanted to pose this to you guys. I know we have an in-race reporter who maybe we can throw this to later, but Dylan Blackwood asked which drivers tonight are going barefoot, socks, or shoes. I don't know if you guys have any preference.
That seems to be kind of an open-ended question when you think about sim racing. I know a ton of people who go socks. I mean, pretty much nobody goes with shoes. I think with sim racing, as far as that's concerned, you just don't have the same feel in the pedals. You're not going to wear shoes or racing shoes or anything like that. But I tend to not really care. I can do either or. I usually wear socks, but I don't know. I guess it's different for everybody. I don't know, Kenneth. What's your thoughts on that?
I have to go with socks. I feel like it's way too uncomfortable with shoes. I don't really feel the pedals as well. Barefoot, I just feel, it just feels naked. It doesn't feel right to me. The socks, I think, are the OG choice. And I think that's probably sort of a deal breaker sim racer question, whether you use a footwear apparel or if you don't use any at all when you're sim racing at your rig at home. I do want to confirm though, Eric, for our in-race reporter tonight, in terms of the 17 of Adam Cabot, he does wear socks. I remember back in season 4, that championship race in person at the Charlotte or the Carolina Esports Hub, he had the socks on. I can confirm.
I think for the Coke Series Championship in Charlotte, we had, I think, two of the drivers on stage were barefoot, and two of them wore socks. Yeah. But I'm somebody, I don't even like to wear gloves when I sim race. Of course, I have a wheel that's old enough that it doesn't matter if I'm wearing gloves or not, but I don't even like to wear gloves if I don't have to. And I know a ton of people, probably most, I would say, in this field are sporting gloves while they're driving tonight.
I want to know what Jacob has to say about this. He's been a little quiet. I want to see, Jacob, do you think socks, no socks, full boots, full shoes? I don't know. What's the preference?
Well, I don't really sim race enough to have a preference. I call more stuff than actually drive anyway, but I would go socks. My only issue is my pedals don't have this problem because they've got rubber on them, but I would think with socks you're going to slide. If you got a real plastic, crappy piece of pedals, you know, you're gonna slide off the brake, you're gonna slide off the gas. That would be an issue for me, but like I said, I don't sim race enough anyway, so my opinion doesn't necessarily matter in that conversation.
Change up front for the race lead. Corey Heim is going to give it to Sage Karam. Not even really a battle put up there. He stopped on the straightaway, let him by, and will roll on in second. Now your top two have separated themselves by about 5 seconds or so back to that 39 of Chase Cabry. But interesting strategy right here for Corey Heim, who I think has the pace. We know he does, but didn't really put up a fight there and just gave Sage Karam the race lead.
It's a smart strategy, though, if you really think about it, because going into this race, Corey Heim is tied with Leighton Seville as the last driver in to the round of 8, should the checkered flag wave, if everybody stays where they are right now from Watkins Glen. So it's a smart move by Heim. Karam is a very veteran road course racer, is very seasoned at this stuff. He won the last time we were at a road course, so just letting him by as a driver that's not affecting the playoff competition, just let him through, let him run the race. Don't fight him too hard for the position, because the last thing you want to do if you're Corey Heim is overextend yourself in the race car, make a mistake, and then all of a sudden you're not just dropping that race lead to Sage Karam, you're dropping second to Chase Cabry, you're dropping third to Ronnie Osmer, you're dropping all the way down the line, and then you start to go further down the list in terms of points. So if you're the 51 of Corey Heim, you just need to keep yourself steady, keep yourself calm, and it's a smart move there letting Karam through.
Look how much that incident for Ryan Vargas affected his playoff hopes. It's an 80-minute race. We're not even 10 minutes in, Jacob. And Ryan Vargas, who seemed to be relatively safe coming in, that's the after effect of it. 5 points out as it stands right now. He would not move on to the round of 8 should this stand.
Well, and Garrett Smithley's running P10 too, so not only does he have to worry about picking spots up, but he also has to worry about passing that gray car there, that 78 machine of Garrett Smithley, because, you know, Smithley's only going to keep gaining spots. That last time by, a little bit off to Nick Olson, who's in front of him. Olson needs a lot of help. He's 21 points back in P9 on the racetrack. Same with Schildhaus. Those are really the two guys that have to win, remember, in order to move on, unless the guys that are up in the top of the standings have some issues tonight. Yeah, we've had the issues with Vargas, but there's a long way to go. We already have 2 cars out of the race. Max Kennan, Connor Berry both have parked their vehicles. Steve Affont has now towed. He has crashed. With Chris Weaver crashed a couple laps ago as well in the boot. Same issue for Steve Affont, lost it all by himself, nosed it into the wall. And now Michael Massey goes for a slide. That's in the boot as well, but he gets it rolling. No, he tows it. So some issues toward the back of the field, but for the playoff drivers, other than the issue with Vargas, it's been clean and green.
You know, I got to say, David Schildhaus is pretty impressive right now. Running in the 5th position. It isn't quite up running with your leaders, but, you know, he was somebody that, you know, if I'm being honest, I just didn't really expect him to be much of a factor tonight. We know he's great on the ovals. The road courses are not necessarily his strong suit. And again, you could see with Colin Fern not in attendance, with Ryan Vargas having his struggles, he is still well behind the cut line, so he has to be thinking must win. But if he's in 5th, and again, if he maintains this until we have that halfway caution, Kenneth, I'd say that he has a chance. He'll at least have a shot at it.
That's all you really need if you're in this type of situation, Blake. You just need to set yourself up for that last stint of the race, especially this one, because we know there's not going to be cautions on the racetrack to stop the run of play, or at least the run of racing out on the track. As you watch Ronnie Osmer here try to attack Chase Cabry for 3rd. Ronnie Osmer has been picking the pace up last couple of laps. But if you're Schildhaus, this is all you need. A very clean run. You run up front, you run very consistently. You learn with this car, you learn with the competition around you, and then comes that setup for that last stint. Here's a look at Osmer going to the outside of Cabry. Cabry's going to let him by, and Schildhaus, Blake, has the front row seat in all of this.
He does. I remember I picked Ronnie Osmer back at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Did not have such a great afternoon there, but looks to be running much better tonight. Right now sitting in that 3rd position, the battle for 3rd, or at least you could say the battle I guess for 3rd best, because Sage Karam and Corey Heim are just completely out of the picture right now. Nearly 8 seconds now ahead of this battle for the 3rd position. You can see Reed Wilson been awfully strong on the road courses so far. Lost a couple of spots since we dropped the green flag. And actually, scratch that, he's moved up 1 spot, so did a nice job of maintaining here in that number 66 car. Oh, somebody just went a little wide right there, just ahead of this battle. That was Schildhaus.
He's going to lose a spot to Bickford coming out of turn 9. So You talked about it, where, you know, not known for his road course racing, and here he is fighting for his playoff life here in M&R Season 6 at perhaps maybe the worst racetrack for him. And I know he didn't want to be in a scenario here where he would have to win at Watkins Glen in order to advance, but there's still a long way to go in this race. We still have to get to the cautions yet, and with that restart, bunching everybody back up, if Shieldhouse has a shot, you may see him turn the aggression on a little bit as he passes Bickford back coming up through the S's, and will retake the 5th spot, and that should open up the door for Reed Wilson on the outside as well.
Here he tries to move around the outside. You have to think that, you know, this isn't necessarily a combination, Eric. When we talk about road course ringers and everything, most of these guys, they pretty much stick to the ovals. You have a couple of specialists here in this field, but of course this is an industry or NASCAR industry related series. You're not going to see too many drivers that often run on the road course, but you had the most popular event on iRacing this past weekend, the 24 hours of Daytona that was taking place, and the amount of drivers that take part in that. 16,651 drivers declared to run. Many of those in this field were a part of that. So when you talk about road course experience and kind of just being fresh and being able to go out there and put some laps together, I'm sure some of these drivers may have been a little bit prepared. I know Daytona isn't Watkins Glen by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm sure any laps, and particularly 3 or 4 hour stints, was probably a good thing for most of these drivers.
Yeah, I mean, repetitions are repetitions, you know. It doesn't really seem to matter. I know we were joking with Adam Cabot beforehand. You know, he made a bunch of laps at Daytona, like you said earlier this week, but wasn't really sure what he had here tonight. Well, he just moved into the top 10, so definitely seems to have a decent race car early on, but again, just playing it safe considering all the points. But I love this. I love that we have a road course as a cutoff race, especially early in the playoffs. I think it's in a way, it's a great equalizer because, as you mentioned, many in this field are not road course specialists by any stretch of the imagination. So right now you're really seeing some great battles, at least from third on back. I guess I should say first and second kind of broken into their own zip code. But I think this is a great cutoff race, something different, something to kind of get everybody out of their comfort zone.
You saw a little bit there in the back of your picture that Anthony Alfredo kind of ran wide there in turn 1. He kept it together, though, but loses a little bit of ground in that battle for 8th. That currently Nick Olson, another driver who is in a must-win situation coming into tonight, needs to try to advance into the round of 8. But this is the Roasted Gems Coffee Challenge, and at Roasted Gems Coffee, premium coffee is sold online in store. That you will find bold, rich, and unique coffee beans with it. Roasted per order, delivered fresh straight to your door in your mug at peak flavor. Enough of old coffee beans. Enjoy your precious coffee gems fresh. Visit roastedgems.com today. Get your premium made-to-order coffee. It is good. I've had it myself, and I'm not just saying that because they sponsored my limited late model either. But back here at Watkins Glen International, it's been a 2-horse pony show at the dog races here. Sage Karam and Corey Heim well in front of the rest of the field, and even Karam, for that matter, has pulled away over 3 seconds over that battle for the race lead over Corey Heim. Ronnie Osmer holding steady right now in 3rd, with Chase Cabry just behind him in 4th. Reed Wilson, James Bickford, and David Shieldhouse kind of within their own 3-way battle right now to stay into the top 5. Olson on his own for 8th. Anthony Alfredo just back up the road, and there's a long line of cars behind him running in 9th. And of course, Adam Cabot right now. We mentioned he just had to get the job done and keep all 4 tires on the racetrack. He's doing so right now in the 10th position.
He had a little scuffle there where Presley saw a couple of laps back, but Cabot was able to swivel his way by, and so Cabot just looking to maintain his consistent run. Here's a look at one of our cameras in our race. That is the 13 of Gary Sexton, a little further back through the field. But one thing I've also noticed in this race, at least in the opening 10, Blake, is that we've seen some separation, but we haven't seen as much as maybe we expected. I anticipated a lot of drivers in the top 5, top 10 to be all over the place, all over the track, and not really within range to fight each other. But you're looking at separation between small groups of cars, and then you have 2-car groups, 3-car groups, 4-car groups, maybe 5 in some cases, like you're seeing here with Joey Padgett. 4 or 5 cars in this group running the same laps, running consistently well with each other.
is the fact that he was able to just slide out of harm's way and nobody else hit them. With Showhouse, with the damage that he has, it's not great. It's something that should be fixable. It's not suspension damage. It's not terminal damage by any stretch. But you don't want to hit the walls here because the walls are unforgiving. And, the damage that you get stuck with, you're stuck with for the rest of the race. It's not like it magically goes away over time or you get to use a fast repair. It's something that these drivers are still having to adjust to, is the fact that they don't have the ability to just reset. DJ Cummings has trouble. He is around, coming out of turn 9, headed to turn 10, parked the wrong way in the middle of the racetrack. Trouble for the 10. He was in the 19th position, got a little too wide and got the grass on corner exit, and that spun that number 10 Porsche around. He gets it rolling, but he falls back to 29th. He loses 10 spots.
So he loses a ton of positions. Didn't hit anything, though, so didn't do too much damage to the car. Here you see, just got that right rear into the grass, and may have just tagged the Armco barrier here at Watkins Glen International, but not something that's going to significantly hurt that car. And that's a good job because, of course, we know that caution's coming up. As long as he can keep his car together, kind of maintain everything, he'll be all right and should be on the lead lap. That's another thing, Kenneth, with a lot of these drivers experiencing a little bit of damage. They have a little bit of leeway here because the boot is such a large racetrack. You think the last car that's running on the lead lap right now is Brett Baldeck. Now, he's about 5 seconds or so off of Sage Karam that last lap. He still has a long ways to go before he would go a lap down. That kind of lets you know that you have a lot of time under caution that we get to fix your damage as long as you stay on the lead lap. And we've seen that in NASCAR several times kind of play out, where a bunch of drivers can kind of hang around and perhaps get a good finish if there's a little bit of attrition, because it's so difficult to go a lap down.
Yeah, it is, and when you add in the boot, you're adding in the length on this racetrack. It was sort of more of a problem last time we were here because we didn't run the boot section of this Watkins Glen International track. We just had the straight shot out of the carousel to turn 6 and turn 7 and then back to the front straightaway. Here with this longer piece of track, you obviously have a little more time if you make a mistake to get yourself back to the gears, to get yourself back into a rhythm, and like you said, to avoid being put a lap down. It looks like Ryan Vargas is going to go for pit road this time by, and this time, Blake, I imagine that we would have seen Vargas come in way earlier in this race based on when he picked up the damage on lap 1 through the S's, but it looks like he tried to stop the bleeding as much as possible. He's going to be one of our first cars, if not the first car, our first playoff driver as well, to hit the line for service.
Now, we did get a call from race control. They are going to close pit road in roughly about 7 minutes before they throw the halfway caution, or at least 7 minutes from now. You won't be able to pit. It's looking like Vargas, at least what we're hearing, he has about 4 minutes and 16 seconds of optional damage, but he is not going to repair all of that. It looks like he just wanted some fresh tires. And again, we just talked about how you can come down, get some service on your car, repair a little bit of that damage. You're not going to go a lap down because, again, this track is just so large that he still has a lot of time to play with to try to stay on the lead lap.
When you're about 8 minutes away from pit road closing, remember, pits will close 5 minutes before the competition caution comes out. So I wonder maybe if he's pulling a little bit of strategy, as here comes Chase Cabry and Ronnie Osmer. They're on the pit lane right now. That's 3rd and 4th. Reed Wilson going to do the same. So my guess is these guys cannot make it to the caution flag, and that's why we're seeing them pit right about now. Adam Cabot also on the pit lane. Anthony Alfredo, Alex LeBay, he has a black flag for speeding.
Several takers here on the pit lane, and I wonder, Kenneth, is this kind of splitting this run in half, or are you thinking of taking tires or fuel only? There's a couple different calls that you have at your disposal here. You can see Josh Slate on pit road as well. A lot of competitors trying to make it down.
It just looks like a splash for fuel. Nobody really lifting up the jacks plate to go for 4 fresh tires. So I think it's just a case of trying to make it to that halfway caution and then deciding what you're going to do for there. A lot of drivers are also looking to stay out, possibly track position wise, and then pit by the time they get back under green in this second half of this Roasted Gems Coffee Challenge. So a very interesting call by a majority of this field to come in, and now that makes me question what happens to the drivers up front. Are Karam, Heim, Bickford, Olsen, are those guys going to all follow in the same tracks, or are they just going to wait for that competition caution to raise at the 35-minute mark and then make their decision to come down for the pit lane? You see out of the final corner, we'll see if Karam does it. In fact, your race leader is in. We'll see if Corey Heim in the 51 will follow. A little bit of a lockup there out of the 43, and it looks like Blake, the 51 of Corey Heim, is indeed also coming in for the lane.
You have to wonder right now if you're kind of at the edge of your fuel window as well, so there's not really a whole lot of options. These guys are kind of forced in a way to come down because they just can't stay out that much longer. So Sage Karam, Corey Heim will make their way onto the pit lane, and even if so, Jacob, even if these guys can make it a little bit further, they really have no incentive to, because you want to get, we've seen it with stage racing in NASCAR time and time again. The biggest thing is that when the caution flag flies, you want to be able to stay out and maintain your track position, and I think that's why you see a large majority of the drivers pitting now, and the fact that pits close in 2 minutes. So it's either this lap or next lap you're going to have to do it before they close pit road.
Well, how about this guy? Sage Karam has the wheels up. He's taking tires on this pit cycle. Not a lot of others have. So David Schildhouse is your race leader. He was the first one off the pit lane, just 7 seconds in the box. I wonder if maybe he's thinking about coming back to pit road under the caution. Karam is now down and away from his first pit stall. He's going to come out, it looks like, in P10. He's not the only one that took tires in this race, but the only one on that stint. Reed Wilson also took tires when he visited the pit lane last time around. A couple of others doing that right now. Garrett Smithley, Bailey Turner, Leighton Sabile. Looks like Justin Melillo and Mark Rubilis might be doing the same as well. So some strategy shaking up here with these guys as far as what they want to do, tires versus no tires. I would think maybe you would want to think about taking tires under the caution, but if you're not going to pit under the yellow, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter.
Well, you can do that, or you can kind of reverse your thinking a little bit, and you can pit now for tires, and then under caution, you can take fuel only if you do have to come down, and you're going to gain a bunch of spots that way. So, again, a lot of strategy available for these drivers. And Eric, I think if you're David Schildhouse, do something that the rest of the field isn't going to do. I think that's the biggest thing for him, is that he needs a win. The point situation, unless he just has a ton of people in front of him have issues, Garrett Smithley, Matt Stallneck, which Stallneck isn't running so great anyway, so there's not a whole lot of points to lose. You're pretty much in a must-win scenario. You got to try something if you're David, and just do something that the rest of the field isn't if you don't have the pace to go out and win, because you really have nothing to lose. It's win or go home.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You said it. You got to do something other than what Sage Karam especially has done so far. But Schildhouse, I know he had a couple small mistakes, lost some positions here and there, but I think we were all impressed. You guys talked about how he was running up inside the top 5 for a good portion of this opening half, this opening run. I did ask the live viewers here on YouTube just a few minutes ago, who, if anyone, do they think has the best shot at running down Sage Karam? Should he re-inherit the lead at the halfway point?
Oh, trouble right in front of Schildhouse. That was... Who was that? It looks like they towed. That was Michael Massey. Sorry to cut you off there, Eric, but that was a close moment for your race leader, David Schildhouse. Continue.
Tense stuff. No, chat, they seem to be on the Corey Heim bandwagon. They seem to believe he's the only driver who's been able to even come close to matching Karam on pace. But, you know, if tire strategy comes into play, that could change things.
Tires, fuel, a bunch of issues. You can see Michael Massey right there. He actually did a nice job of kind of driving out of the way, and eventually took that tow to pit road so that he would not be in the way of your race leader. So pit lane entrance has closed, and we are 4 minutes, or at least under 4 minutes. The race control recently posted we are 4 minutes away from that halfway caution. Schildhouse, Heim, Cabry, your top 3, all in contention for the Monday Night Racing playoffs. And we know Schulthouse is up here on strategy at the moment, but you can see how that would change the playoff grid, Kenneth, and it's changing lap by lap. Garrett Smithley would be out. You look a little bit further down, another driver that would be out that otherwise would be in is Leighton Sabile. Remember his late regular season win to get him in, he would not advance should Schulthouse maintain the race lead.
And Sabile has been flirting with that cut line, it looks like, all night long up to this point. And you're right, with David Schulthouse in this situation, if he were to grab the checkered flag, that is going to bump Sabile out by those 2 points. And you know, him and Ryan Vargas, especially with the way Vargas has been trying to handle his race tonight after the issues on lap number 1, it has been topsy-turvy, and so it's going to be big if the 20 can spoil the playoff party and look to go back to the championship 4 where he had a chance a couple of seasons back. Although I do want to mention, the 51 of Corey Heim is rapidly approaching that. Last time by, it was relatively close in lap time between the two. Heim a little slower, but as they work through the boot, that gap has significantly closed to about 1.5 seconds. At one point, it was 2.5 and a little bit more. So Corey Heim might be approaching Schulthouse. Could give us a nice battle for the lead before we officially get that halfway caution.
Not only is Corey Heim doing a nice job at tracking down David Schulthouse, you have Sage Karam, who is still the fastest car on the racetrack, and perhaps no surprise considering that he took 4 tires on this most recent stop. He just passed James Bickford to get up into the 8th position. So you got a couple of cars here, varying strategy, varying speeds up here in the top 10. A lot could change, but yes, Corey Heim ate into the lead by about a second that last lap, Jacob.
Yeah, we'll see if he can get there. He's running out of time, though, because we've got under 3 minutes until we get the caution. Will Rogers has crashed again, guys. He's got a meatball flag. He is rolling on the racetrack, but he has hit something. Because he wouldn't have the meatball flag anymore since he pitted a little while ago. Trying to find out what in the world he did. But whatever he did, it wasn't enough to stop him from rolling on the racetrack. But we'll shift focus back up here to the lead because Corey Heim is flying right now, and he's going to have a shot to take the lead here in the boot.
And it looks like Schulthouse is just going to let him have it here. So David Schulthouse back out of the playoffs when things refresh, when we cross the start-finish line. Corey Heim doesn't need a win. He's in a good position regardless. But can't hurt to go to victory lane once again if you're Corey Heim. And Schulthouse may just lose second as well. Here comes Chase Cabrey looking for a way around in that 20 car.
And if you're Heim there, a win would definitely be essential. It's obviously not going to be necessary to get into the next round by any stretch of the imagination, but any win is huge momentum, especially going into some of the more difficult tracks and combos we're going to have.
Trouble, Matt Stolnick is around. That's in the boot in turn 7. He got bumper grabbed off the back bumper of Michael Fisher and went around. It's single car, but he did back it into the tires just barely as the halfway caution is out. Stolnick gonna lose a couple of spots with that little slide there in turn number 6.
The biggest thing I would look at it with that 41 car is if his steering is somehow messed up. We'll see if it is. That shot could have been enough to unsettle that race car, but that would be big implications because Matt was in when that caution flew. That could change things a little bit now that he has lost several positions. And oh boy, could that kind of throw a wrench into things. So the caution flag, the halfway yellow, is out. Heim, as we chronicled just before it came out, was able to take the race lead over David Schulthouse, Chase Cabrey, Ronnie Osmer, and how about Anthony Alfredo up there in the top 5? You have another playoff driver, Nick Olson. We mentioned his dire straits coming into tonight. He needs a win to advance to the round of 12, or the round of 8. Rather. We'll see if he can get the job done on the flip side of this caution. But Monday Night Racing is proud to partner with Interstate Batteries. Built to top industry standards, Interstate Batteries has been the technician's choice for 9 years and counting. Powered by a distributor network of 300 wholesale warehouses and backed up by more than 150,000 dealers around the world, as well as 200 all-battery center franchise stores, Interstate seeks to deliver the most trustworthy source of power to the world every single day. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable and proud partner of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series, presented by Interstate Batteries. Blake McCandless, Kenneth Bueno, Jacob Hitz, and Eric Estep on the call with you tonight. Ryan Bauer down in the virtual production trailer as we run under the caution flag under cloudy skies here at Watkins Glen International, just about halfway through this 80-minute timed race. As we mentioned earlier, Corey Heim, your race leader, and well on his way to the round of 8 should all things continue to go in the direction of that 51 camp. But guys, a lot of strategy to discuss here, whether you pit, whether you take tires, everything those crew chiefs have been thinking of, it's time to go out and execute it here under this yellow flag.
Well, a safe call might be just to pit, just so you can get to that a little stint before you may have to pit at least one more time before this race is all said and done. But again, we'll just see, and with the fact that these drivers didn't pit all too long before this yellow is flown here from Watkins Glen International, it's going to be very interesting to see, one, who's going to take that chance down for pit lane, and two, who's going to come out in front. It looks like Corey Heim is already looking for.
He just faked the field.
Yeah, he's staying out. David Schildhaus is going to come in, and I think he may be one of the only drivers, apart from maybe Anthony Alfredo and some others, in the pit lane.
Kind of split decision. I thought Jacob, I thought we would see nearly everybody come down. Apparently not the case.
Well, Schildhaus makes sense only because, remember, he only took 10 seconds in the box. So he was going to have to pit sooner than everybody else. So he's going to take that now. Otherwise, he just would have run out of fuel a couple minutes after we had gone back to green. My question is here now, do you take tires or do you decide to go fuel only? Because I would imagine, since they needed to pit before the caution came out, I would imagine that these guys are going to have to make one more stop to make it to the end on fuel. So my guess is, for the 14 guys that stayed out, well, good luck. For everybody else that's on the pit lane, they're going to take fuel. I would think they're going to take tires, and it looks like all of them are. And then they're only going to make it a fuel-only stop at the end. Now, Sage Karam already took tires, remember? So we'll see what he does on his next stop. Everybody else pretty much only took fuel. Our exceptions are Reed Wilson, Sabile, Garrett Smithley, Bailey Turner, and Gary Sexton. So they're in the same camp as Sage Karam. The guys took fuel only: Heim, Cabry, Osmer, Olson, Bickford, Paget, Fisher. I'm not so sure about what they're going to do here by the time they have to come to pit road next, whenever that's going to be. Obviously, it's going to be before the end of the race. The question is it going to be early enough where they're actually stuck in a two-stop situation? We'll have to see.
Well, and we'll see if a little bit later on in this caution, if we can get a word maybe from Adam Cabot, our in-race reporter, or Tufco in-race reporter. I would be curious to know exactly what the thinking is here in terms of fuel strategy, because in my opinion, and again, I'm just up here in the booth, I'm not out there driving the race car, but to my understanding, if Corey Heim, if you're Chase Cabry, you would only stay out here if you know that you can make it to the end on fuel. That's the only conceivable scenario that I think would make sense, is you can make it to the end without having to come down and pit another time. Otherwise, why would you stay out here? Because you have the opportunity to make up some fuel, and if you give these guys who did pit the opportunity to make it to the end and you can't, I mean, you're putting yourself in a really bad position here.
I think it'd just be a case of track position. It may just be that important, especially for guys like, let's say, Nick Olson, one who's staying out and one who came into this race dead last in the round of 12 and needing to win. I think track position may just be a little too important here, or maybe they all know that everyone's going to have to pit at least one more time before this race is over. So they're just saying, if we stay out here, it doesn't matter what we do because we're going to have to come down pit road regardless. So I don't think they want to take that extra step. We'll see, though. I may be the worst strategist in the world when it comes to the sim, but we'll see.
I'd like to get some clarification here from Adam Cabin, see what he thinks of all this. So, Adam, a lot of different strategies going on. What's kind of the angle that you guys are thinking of tackling this with?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I can really offer any clarification because I'm not really sure exactly what it is I'm trying to do here. I took 4 under that caution. I wasn't really planning on doing that, but after just taking fuel only under green, some guys came out of the pits, I assume on tires, and they were just flying. So gave up a lot of track position, but I think I would have ended up back here anyway if I didn't put on these tires. So yeah, just gonna try to take it easy, put some solid laps together. But I know some guys, I think, we're alternating taking left side tires and right side tires. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not sure if anyone really knows what they're doing, but I guess you'll find out from the winner at the end.
I guess that's the case, but the thinking just kind of being a little conservative here, the position you're in, just trying to get to the end, I'm sure is the line of thinking for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just trying to, I'm not really pushing in the bus stop too much, trying to not go in side by side, just let people by if they get next to me. And I've got Presley yelling at me because I accidentally brake checked him going into the pits, which was pretty bad. I wasn't paying attention. He wants to know how I didn't get a speeding penalty, which is a great question because I was going pretty fast. Yeah, I have more questions than answers, unfortunately, but we'll see what we can do and hopefully just finish the race and point our way in.
Can you make it to the end on fuel?
No. That's all right, there you go. I answered a question for you. No, we cannot make it to the end on fuel, or at least I don't. No, we definitely can't make it to the end on fuel.
All right, Adam Cabot, thanks for talking to us. Your Tough Go in-race reporter. Again, just looking to try and get to the end of this thing and move forward. Jacob, we saw David Schoenhaus came down for a splash of fuel, so Adam Cabot says, no, you can't make it to the end. If you're David Schoenhaus and you come down for a splash, maybe there's a scenario where you can. Otherwise, why would he put himself at the back of the field just to get a little bit extra in his fuel tank?
Well, maybe he thinks he can save a little bit more. I'm not sure. But remember, you don't have any cautions. You can't save under caution after this. It's bold strategy. But Schoenhaus has to do everything he can to try and win the race. He's not in Adam Cabot's position where all Cabot has to do is have a good finish. Schoenhaus has to win. So, of course, Schoenhaus is going to do just about anything different so he can try and get off strategy and maybe walk himself into a win. It's going to be tough, though, with the last 35 minutes. We'll have to see.
As somebody who went 35 laps in a truck without pitting here, I would love to see if there's any scenario where fuel strategy could perhaps play a factor in determining the outcome of this race. But back up front, Corey Heim, Chase Capri, Ronnie Osmer, several drivers elected to stay out under this most recent caution. You really have to get back to about 15th, about the 15th position or so before you see drivers that did come down. So a mix of speed and of talent up here in the top 20. We'll see how it all shakes out. Corey Heim, Chase Cabry, your top 2 as we embark upon roughly 35 minutes left in this race. We are back underway here at Watkins Glen International.
And we'll see if the entrance to turn 1 this lap is just as clean as turn 1 lap 1. Whole field going to come in. A little bit of contact near the rear of the field. I think I might have saw Gary Sexton in the middle of all that, but the field will be okay. Going up the hill through the S's, and Corey Heim looking to run away, but Chase Cabry has a bit of the draft and might make a move before we get to the bus stop.
Looking in at the bus stop. Does he try to make a move here? Doesn't look like he's going to elect to do it this time as they are side by side throughout the field, but quickly they get single file before these cars are bouncing over the curbs here. They can really run on them throughout this bus stop, especially here in this Porsche 991 RSR. The diffuser's not quite scraping against the curbing like you think it would, but these cars can certainly take that punishment as they work into the boot.
We'll see what happens here after this restart, because remember, you cannot pass before the start-finish line. You cannot change lanes. And some drivers were doing that, and the restart's under review as a result. Steve Lafont and Chris Weaver got EOL penalties. I don't think that those are related, but we'll have to see. A couple of guys came over the radio, Ryan Vargas being one of them, and said, I gave the positions back. I'm good. And that's the determination there. Restart is clear. Everybody gave their spots back. That did something wrong there on the restart, and those EOLs, by the way, were on request, according to Josh Mendoza, so not related.
Just about 33 minutes left in this race, so we're kind of past, I guess, what would be the second half. We would have run just a little bit longer in this first stint before that halfway caution. You can see Adam Cabot restarted 17th. Hasn't really made his way off the road just yet. Gained just one spot on this lap where we returned back to the green flag. You can see him running up the S's, a long line of cars just up the road from him. Joshua Slate, Gary Sexton, just a couple of those. Alfredo is going to go by Garrett Smithley. And I think if you're Garrett Smithley here, Eric, you're starting to get a little bit worried about all these drivers, all these different scenarios, everything that's going on with the playoffs, because Smithley is around the 12th position. He can move forward a little bit. But he's kind of running into territory where he's just, I mean, you see it right there. He's 1 point in. Matt Stallneck is barely hanging on. And, excuse me there, my math is wrong. Smithley is about 4 spots in.
Stallneck has crashed. Turn 6, and he gets hit by Chris Weaver. Going into turn number 6, he was racing with Alex LeBay. LeBay got into him, the 41, into the tires, and then he gets drop-kicked by not one, but 2 different cars. I think the first was Baldeck. Meatball flag for Stallneck, and it was Baldeck that collided with the 41. Disaster for Matt Stallneck, who was in the position to more than likely make the round of 8. Now, major trouble.
Yeah, you can see LeBay went to make the move on the inside. Stallneck didn't think he was there, and you could see the ensuing result. Contact to Stallneck. That is certainly going to hurt that race car, and then all of the impacts afterwards going to put him behind. So Matt Stallneck in a position now that he is essentially out of the round of 8 after these most recent incidents. You can see he can barely steer the car back to pit road, and you can see the frustration on his face as a result.
And he was looking back at the broadcast there on the right side of your screen on his TV, and you see it there, him limping the car. He can't even make this second to last corner before he's definitely going to have to come in for service. And there he is, bringing the car to a halt, bringing the car to the 40-mile-per-hour pit road speed limit, and the 41. It looks like this may be just the last sniff that he has of making it into the round of 8. An unbelievable set of circumstances, and unfortunately the same place that Stallneck had trouble on just before we had that caution to midway. So same place, same troubles, contact with LeBay, and the 41, you see him drop all the way. It's now -1, but it's obviously going to increase with Nick Olson and Schildhaus going to be able to make laps, and it looks like Stallneck might be out of this race for good.
And boy, isn't this reminiscent kind of his late playoff struggles last year, Jacob? You think the cutoff race for the next ensuing round, trying to get into that second round, ran into a lot of issues at Texas when we were in the Xfinity car, had some issues on pit road, didn't work for him, and of course was in a position to advance, was running around the 25th spot. That's the last thing he needed, was to have an excursion like this. And I mean, you could see the result on the playoff standings, 1 point out for the 41, which again is a sigh of relief if you're Ryan Vargas or Garrett Smithley. You needed that to try to keep you ahead.
But there's still a long way to go, and I'm sure he's going to be looking. Whoa, look out, that's a car sideways coming off the final corner. Oh, man.
What a save.
Able to hold on. That was Vargas that was drifting it. And I was going to say, there's still a lot of time left. Or no, Ford Martin was the one that was drifting it through the final corner. But there's a lot of time left for something else to happen to a playoff driver behind, or rather in front of Stallneck. Stallneck has to find a way to get back onto the racetrack if he can, so that way he can try and maybe pick up another spot.
Take a look at it one more time. On board with Ford Martin.
But it's got hit.
By the
Nice
way,
drift,
Stallneck now just has a regular black flag. I think he was speeding. Oh, yeah. A lot of speeding coming onto pit road. So not only did he have the meatball flag that he had to fix, now he's got to sit spend even more time in the box because he sped on entry. So Matt Stolnick is in danger at this point of losing a lap. And Gary Sexton's in trouble. Coming out of turn 7. Got the grass and got the tires. No meatball flag, but big damage. And Gary's going to lose a couple of spots because of it.
Yeah, that car not really wanting to steer. You can see his wheel is a little bit off center. Perhaps not too hurt, though. Yeah, think through that.
Oh, trouble behind him.
Big
and that's
crash.
Vargas in it. Track blocker. Why is there no caution? We were told pre-race that if the track was blocked, a caution would come out.
And there it is.
Ryan Vargas, yeah, it has to come out. Vargas is still blocked. Now, Vargas had an issue the first time around with that crash in the S's on lap 1 because the track was pretty much blocked there and there was no call. Justin Malillo was screaming over the radio at the admin saying, hey, the track's blocked. Brandon Brown with big damage. He was the first car that made contact trying to get around Gary Sexton. He got into Alex Labay. That kicks Labay across the racetrack. Huge damage from Ryan Vargas. No meatball flag, but to match the damage on the back end, he now has a lot of damage on the front end.
You know who got the worst end of that? That was Brandon Brown. I mean, that car
He's got a meatball.
is crab walking. I mean, that thing is more trimmed out than Sam Hornish at Charlotte a couple of years ago. That car is skewed like crazy. You can see right there. I mean, look at the skew on that thing.
Oh, that is dog track. That's like Eric Jones.
Oh, and he just spun. Oh, he's going to take a toe. He couldn't go any further. But yeah, look how much he's turning to try to make the corner. That is ridiculous.
I mean, just no space as well, Blake. It's a very narrow piece of the track. I mean, we talk about the lot of runoff that you have with the most recent scan of Watkins Glen International. That piece of the track, when you're exiting the boot and you're merging back onto the turn 10, turn 11 sector of the course, there's barely any space and barely any space outside of the racing line. You get a little piece of grass, but it's straight guardrail right after that. And Brandon Brown getting put into the guardrail there with the spin. Alex Labay, as a result, just had no space, and then as Brandon Brown had the momentum shift the other way, just got shot up the track, and then Vargas just came in at the worst possible time. So an even out between the 41 having issues and now Vargas having them. An unbelievable set of circumstances developing between two playoff drivers.
Now the field has to catch the pace car, which is sitting at the exit of pit road right now. So pit road is not open. They will catch the pace car. But the one thing I am listening to from several different cars here, Jacob, saving gas, shutting the motor off, coasting down these long straightaways downhill in the boot. These drivers, I think some of them needed this as a break, whether they can make it on fuel or not. Those drivers that came in when the caution came out, this may be the break they needed. Again, we did not have an unplanned caution at CTMP, but we have one here. This may be the lucky break that somebody like a David Schoenhaus may have needed, that they could potentially make it to the end on fuel here.
Well, and this is going to bunch the field up again. And Blake, I think this may still be a little too far outside the window as far as making it to the end. But if you save here, you're saving fuel. So that way, if you do have to come to pit road, you're in the box for a lesser amount of time. You're able to pass other cars. You're able to get track position off the pit lane. I think that's more the motive here, is the fact that you save fuel under the caution flag. So that way, you don't have to be in the box as long, and you may get the advantage over some of these other guys. But based off of where we're at right now, we're looking projected at around 20 more laps around the racetrack. That opening stint before they pitted was only, I think, 16 laps. So they're going to have to pit again in order to make it to the end on fuel. I think they're going to have to stop at least one more time, based off of how much time we have left.
That may be the case, and we'll see if they continue to run under the caution flag. I don't think that Sage Karam's cries for a shortened yellow are going to be heard, because, again, the rest of the field could not pit the last lap around as they were catching the pace car. So I believe what will happen here is we'll get the one to go this time and allow drivers the opportunity to pit, probably save or repair a little bit of damage. But think after this, we will get one to go after this, and you'd have to think what it'd be a little over 10 laps or so about that we get. And another thing that is huge right here, and this may just be the greatest stroke of luck for driver 41. He was a lap down. He was the only driver that was 1 lap down. So Matt Stolnick got to fix a lot of his race car, and he is back on the lead lap. So a real saving grace for Matt Stolnick. Still got a lot of damage. Doesn't even have a hood on that race car right now. But this was his only chance, maybe, Eric, to try and get back in this thing. So got really lucky right there, did Matt Stolnick.
Absolutely, and I'll be really curious to see here, Blake. I know they're coming around the final corner right now. I want to see if anyone chooses to pit, but it sounds like a lot of drivers they've kind of made their bed. They might be trying to save. I spoke too soon. Looks like a lot of them might be heading down pit road. But I'll be really curious. Does David Shieldhouse pit here? If he's got a splash of gas.
No, he's going to stay out.
Wow, so that's interesting. That's a wrinkle. If he gets a little bit of a cushion, which maybe a couple guys stayed out behind him, boy, I don't know. Old tires, because I assume somebody might take tires, but if not, Shieldhouse with the track position, can he shake this up?
So Eric, he took tires under the caution flag, under the scheduled caution flag, and then came back in and topped off. So his tires are only 3 laps old as far as green flag conditions. So he's not doing too bad as far as his tires versus the tires of everybody else. Plus, most of the guys that just pitted only took fuel only.
We talked about him doing something different than Sage Karam and the leaders, and this is about as well as he could have hoped for it to work out, I think, at this stage.
No doubt.
He has his opportunity to be the race leader. I think that's all you can ask for in this scenario. And he's got a couple of cars behind him that elected to stay out with him. That is DJ Cummings and Mark Rebillis. So 3 cars elect to pass by pit road. They think, or at least they're going to try to make it on fuel here to the end. Sage Karam won the race off of pit road, followed by Corey Heim, Anthony Alfredo. And we haven't really mentioned his name a lot, but he's been running in the top 7 or so. And again, he's a driver that could win his way into the round of 8th. It's that 24, Nick Olson, is well in this thing and not out of it yet as well. So Nick Olson, somebody that could maybe strike here depending on what happens. A lot of these restarts, guys, it's when we know we have 30 minutes of racing left. You know, there's a lot of time when you can pass and maybe not be so aggressive. Now that we're getting to the end of this thing, we know that cautions can be thrown, and we know this is Monday Night Racing. These late race yellows tend to make everything crazy and chaotic. So I'm interested to see what happens here in turn 1, because I think we could really see something happen here that would shake up this entire playoff picture.
It only takes 1 restart to set in the desperation for everybody in this field. Most notably all those guys that are sitting below the cut line. The Stolnicks of the world that are just hanging on with a beaten up race car. The Garrett Smithleys of the world who are just kind of hanging through the cut line all race long. And then Olsen, Shieldhouse, who at this point basically need to win this race in order to ensure a spot into the next round. The desperation is going to be kicking in, and kicking in at a very high level. And it's going to be outwardly insane just to see what drivers do what, because like I said, when you have 30 minutes left in this race, you know time is waning, but you know that you have a little bit of a buffer to get into a run and get settled, then pass some cars. This time, you don't really have any of that.
All right, so I misspoke a little bit earlier. It was 2 to go earlier. We will get the 1 to go this time around, which again is a big deal for these drivers that stayed out. That's another lap that they get to save fuel under this caution. So David Shieldhouse has resumed the race lead along with DJ Cummings and Mark Rebillis running at the front of the Roasted Gems Coffee Challenge. We'll be right back from Watkins Glen International.
This is an interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going. Moss, look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street, everywhere. Interstate batteries, outrageously dependable.
Visit our website at toughgoflooring.com.
Get the edge on your competition with P8 Performance Gummies. Formulated specifically for gamers and the esports industry, we packed our gummies with all the good stuff, including ingredients that are clinically proven to help tired eyes, improve reaction times, and help suppress computer vision syndrome. Take your focus and endurance to the next level and try P8 Gummies today. Now available at procelerate.com. Plus, if you're mad about gaming, we're looking to partner with influencers just like you. Drop us a line at support at procelerate.com to see if you qualify to try our gummies for free. It's officially game on with all new P8 gummies.
Back with you here from Watkins, Glen International. And the race has been flipped on its head after a late race caution. A lot of playoff implications on the line to be decided in the next 16 or so minutes when we get the drop of the green flag. Eric, this is kind of everything the playoffs are meant to be. And, I thought things would be pretty tame for this one. It's a road course. Thought we'd get pretty spread out, be pretty straightforward. But we've had a lot of drama to talk about, and it's not over yet.
Absolutely not. I asked the chat if they think David Shieldhouse here has any chance on holding off the rest of the field, locking himself into the next round, and we got a split chat here. Dylan says it'll be a dogfight, giving him a chance. Mike Sommeyer says no, and Eva saying, yeah, of course, no big deal. It's as easy as that. So going to be an exciting, like you said, final 16 or so minutes here, Blake.
It really is. We'll see if David Shieldhouse, again, your race leader, he has been clutching this entire caution. You can see the gap he is leaving to the pace car to try and get a little bit of a jump. You have your drivers on, well, not on fresh tires, but did come down and take fuel. Sage Karam, Corey Heim, and Anthony Alfredo just behind your top three. What moves will they make into turn number one? And can David Shieldhouse hang on and win his way in dramatic fashion into the round of 8? He gets an early jump, green flag in the air, and about 16 minutes left in the Roasted Gems Coffee Challenge.
We start under review by race control Josh Mendoza. Clean run through turn one. Shieldhouse is able to clear by a couple of car lengths, and Cummings already trying to hold up for second. But here comes Sage Karam charging up the hill. Going through the S's will look potentially for the bus stop. And I think that may just be a problem, Blake, for the driver of the 20. Karam has been fast all night long, has been so dominant, makes contact with Cummings, entering the bus stop, and they're challenging for the lead.
And DJ Cummings takes it for himself, a power move into the bus stop, and now Shieldhouse has to try to hold off Sage Karam, but my goodness, did DJ Cummings put a masterclass on David Shieldhouse right there.
That was huge. Because, Shieldhouse already didn't have much of a buffer to Karam and the faster cars, and DJ Cummings just blew right behind him like he was standing still. And here comes Karam to the inside, into turn 8, and that's a done deal. Here comes another, that's Alfredo. Those are basically teammates making contact up off the corner and up over the hill. Cabry gets by as well, and it looks like for Shieldhouse, the dream is done.
Yeah, that may just about be it. He had a little bit of contact, as you mentioned, with Anthony Alfredo through that right-hander, but he lost that track position that he worked so hard to gain. Now, DJ Cummings, still your race leader out front, has a little bit of a lead to play with here, but Karam and Heim have been so quick this evening. I don't know how long he can hold it, but we'll see if he can.
it may not be that long just because of how quick Sage Karam has been on the track all race. And now here comes Chase Cavry, a challenge for third on the podium to the inside of Alfredo for turn 1. This is probably not what they really want to see, Blake, just because they hope that Sage Karam gets held up a little bit by Cummings and they can catch up in order to challenge for the lead. Shieldhouse is looking to answer back on Alfredo. They almost made contact again, going up the S's this lap by Shieldhouse, looking to power his way past Cavry for third.
Oh, man, we've got trouble. Matt Stolnick just hit Justin Malillo in turn 1. Malillo spun by himself. Stolnick drop-kicked him, and as if there wasn't enough damage, he's got a meatball flag and a broken race car. Matt Stolnick had a dream for a moment with the caution to get himself back on the lead lap. The car broke. That's it for Stolnick at this point.
And back up front, change for the race lead. Sage Karam has wrestled it back from DJ Cummings. We'll take one more look at what happened to Justin Malillo here, and it looks like he gets hit into turn 1. I don't know if there's much that Malillo could have done.
And he washes up and bounces off Robbie Lyons. And that's what gets him sideways into the inside wall. And then he tries to get it back rolling. He's going to spin it around. He has to stop. He backs up, doesn't know where Stolnick's going, and Stolnick clips him.
Oh, and Stolnick has crashed again.
It's turn 7. That thing is, if it wasn't broke before, it's definitely broke now.
Yeah, and he got
again.
He washed up in front of Michael Massey, yeah.
Oh, he got disqualified. He was driving backwards, or he hit the incident limit. Is there an incident limit? No. He was driving backwards and got disqualified. The sim disqualified him. That's it.
Oh, man. That is... it has been a rough go for Matt Stolnick the last 10 or 15 minutes. And, I mean, with that, you can see he's above the cut line right now. He still somehow sits in 28th, so he may not be out of it. If a lot doesn't change up front, I mean, you have to imagine he's going to be done.
Well, here's the problem. He's got Will Rogers, Brett Baldeck, Chris Weaver still on the racetrack behind him. They're going to pass him within the next 2 laps. So, it's over.
They could crash out. I mean,
well,
you never know. And not only that, so even if he's going to lose the next 2 spots, Garrett Smithley. Yeah, Smithley.
Oh, trouble in turn 7. Nick Olson is around. He clips Joey Padgett.
So Nick Olson, he's another playoff driver that is probably out after that. Now Smithley gained 2 spots out of it, so Smithley moves further up the board. There is a long line of cars in front of Smithley. Cabot, 9th on back. There's about 8 cars under a blanket. You could see the replay of Nick Olson right there. His playoff hopes go up in smoke as he was in a must-win scenario. And there's Adam Cabot.
You know what?
He just needed to be clean.
You know what, guys? I think there might have been a little bit of beef in there. I think Olson and Anthony Alfredo were going back and forth after Olson spun. He got the grass going into turn 7. And I wonder, maybe he was driving too hard to get back to the 33. He just let him by because he missed the bus stop that same lap. And I don't know if that was part of it or what. But Olson escaped that without a meatball flag. Can't say the same for Joey Padgett, though. He's on the pit lane, and he was somebody that came in with a pretty good advantage. You see right now, just 2 points to the good.
This has all helped Ryan Vargas so much. I mean, the fact that Vargas may escape out of here is just incredible. Got destroyed on, lap 2. He may be able to make it out. Now, Smithley has his work cut out for him. He's got a ton of cars in front of him that he could pass, and right now he sits 1 point out. So the drama turns to Garrett Smithley. He'll get helped by the fact that, as you mentioned, Matt Stolnick right now is done and has not lost 2 more spots to Rogers and Baldeck should they stay on the track and them not run into issues.
It's definitely going to help, and also think about how far Stolnick is going to have to fall, and it could also potentially help David Shieldhouse. I think a win is still needed if you're that driver of the 20, but it's only going to help. With the chaos we've already seen tonight, I think there's multiple cases for many playoff drivers in this field to still have a shot to get in, regardless of the gap. This is going to be big for Smithley here if he can make these handful of passes, starting with defending series champion Presley Sora. As you watch the 41, I believe he's going to be 3 laps down this time through. So Will Rogers, Brett Baldick goes by. Chris Reavers should be next up on the list in the final 9 minutes. So we'll just see, but look at this, 4 points, 1 point, 0 points, and then -1, -11. It is remarkably close inside the final 10 minutes of this race.
3 wide now, as if we haven't had enough drama. 3 wide into turn 1. Here they go. That's Sora on the bottom, who's locked in. He makes contact with Turner. Osmer was the one hanging on.
What does he have against the 49ers? Oh, and Smithley just bodied him out of the way in turn 2. I mean, I'm not a 49ers fan this week, but geez, guys. Woof.
I think Smithley realizes, I mean, he's kind of in a dire situation here. He needs a couple spots, or he's done.
There's a lot of desperation. I think that was a little bit roughing the passer there for Billy.
I mean, look at that. 3-way tie right now for the cut line. I mean, this is incredible. 8 minutes left. You have 3 drivers that are tied now. Stolnick finally loses 2 positions. So now he's on the outside looking in. And that may just about do it. I mean, Olsen is pretty much out. Schoenhaus is still in contention but runs in 4th. He needs something to happen. Fern is not in attendance. And Stolnick is done. So, I mean, that may have kind of been your 4 drivers right there, unless something happens and Schoenhaus can make up about 4.5 seconds. It's not looking good for any of those 4 drivers beneath the cut line to try and ascend above it.
And oh, by the way, 7.5 minutes to go. Clock's ticking.
A lot of drama here at Watkins Glen International. Sage Karam is well off, well and away. 3.5 seconds over DJ Cummings, Chase Cabre, David Schoenhaus, Corey Heim, your top 5. Bigford, Alfredo Cabot, Wilson Sabile, your top 10. Leighton Sabile, haven't mentioned his name much tonight, but you know what? He's getting the job done, and should he stay where he is, he'll move on to the round of 8.
It's a quintessential method as well, Blake. Sabile, who's had maybe 1 or 2 mistakes all night long, he's kept the car on the racetrack, and look what it's gotten. There's a car up into the outside.
Alfredo
in the bus stop. You're right.
He was inside the top 10, and Alfredo just flat out spun it, making the turn. He got the curb. It got him tail happy, and he spins it down to the safer barrier there. He falls back to 22nd. That's going to shuffle up positions for everybody, including Garrett Smithy, as you ride on board with the spin.
6 minutes and 20 seconds left, and another driver has kind of appeared around that cut line. It's Joey Padgett, that 83 car. He is back out onto the racetrack right now. He is 1 lap down. And he's somebody you can see right there. He is now the only driver that could potentially be passed, which would put Stolnick in. So if he runs into issues, Rogers or Baldeck could pass him, and that would put Matt Stolnick in.
And you have to imagine this is so much anxiety for Stolnick.
Oh, and then just right in front of Padgett.
Goes around. That was, I believe,
Bow fans.
Bow fans around. And that is huge, but you're right. I think if you're Stolnick right now, you are playing the anxiety game. You are nervously watching this race develop, and you are hoping and praying that Padgett makes a mistake. Padgett comes down pit road, and obviously the biggest thing, he gets passed by Will Rogers in this 7. Here's a look at the mistake from Valfans Jr. Just grabs the grass, and just a simple mistake that has caught many tonight, Blake McCandless. You grab the grass in this Porsche 911 RSR, you're gone around for good.
And boy, that close between potentially running into the issue that we almost talked them into. And 5 minutes left, Eric. Still a lot.
Oh, we've got trouble. Leighton Sabile just made contact with Ronnie Osmer. Oh my gosh, they saved it. Sabile just mowed the grass. Oh no, they didn't. Garrett Smithley spun it in turn 5. Garrett Smithley spins out, battling for position. position with a couple of cars in the playoffs, and he gets hit by Robbie Lyons right in front of Joey Padgett. Oh, and he gets drop kicked by Anthony Alfredo. Upside down is Garrett Smithley in the carousel. And he gets hit again by Gary Sexton. Championship implications for Garrett Smithley, who is now back in the 22nd position and may lose more if he has a meatball flag, and he does.
I don't know if he would be forced to pit with it. You have a couple of laps to answer a meatball flag. He could just kind of drive this thing home with 4 minutes left, just a little over 2 laps, but the damage has been done. He's going to lose several positions, and Matt Stolnick, who has no course of action other than watching this broadcast, may have just gotten back into the round of 8.
We'll see, though, because Stolnick is already multiple laps down, 5 laps down to be specific. There's the mistake by Smithley entering the carousel. He was in a huge gaggle of cars. Presley Sora, a couple of others in there as well. And then right about here, they stack up. And Smithley just lost the car entering the corner by himself. Didn't even get tagged. Barely tagged the outside tire barrier, and then it just went all chaotic through there. Look at Smithley having to limp his Porsche down to the final 2 corners. We'll see if he answers the flag. The answer is yes. So Smithley in for the pit lane, and Presley Sora in a battle up front. I believe that is with Reed Wilson in the 66. Or no, that's Stephen Ellis.
So Smithley goes down to the pits. I was wondering if he would tough it out, but I guess the damage is just too bad. You can see that puts him well out. Matt Stolnick is in. Joey Padgett is in.
Well, okay, so Stolnick is going to lose 1 more spot. Chris Weaver will pass him. Steve Afont's 3 laps back on Stolnick. So Stolnick cannot lose any more spots on the racetrack. So I think he's safe.
He's safe, but okay, so if you're disqualified from a race, would you be scored last or where you were when you got disqualified? Because I know that's a potential issue as well. Yeah, if he was disqualified from the race, is he going to score points?
Well, it was the sim that DQ'd him as Ronnie Osmer gets pushed wide. That's coming out of turn 9. Since the sim disqualified him, rather, and it wasn't one of the race admins, are they able to overturn that? I mean, Stolnick's car was jumped. I don't think he was going to get back out onto the racetrack. I think he really would have wound up in this spot. And Josh Mendoza just cleared Stolnick's black flag, so he no longer is disqualified from the session. They just cleared that DQ. So he will finish right now in the 31st position, and that is huge as far as the playoffs, and he might be able to survive here with just, well, a minute 45. That's all you got to make it here.
What, just 1 more lap or so beyond this one, or heck yeah, I think Karam will get to the line before the timer runs out, so it'll pretty much be the white flag he'll be receiving this time by. So for Karam, it's been pretty straightforward. He just has that outright pace to drive away. Chase Cabry has done a stellar job as well. But unfortunately, the strategy call, it's going to net him a top 5. But without a lot happening in front of him on this last lap, David Schildhouse looks like he is going to come well short of trying to get into the round of 8, and his bid for a championship will once again fall short. Great effort, though, for car number 20, but looks like that's just about gone up in smoke for him.
And Schildhouse did all that he could, whether it came from strategy, whether it came from trying to...
Olsen has crashed again. Turn 7 yet again. Got the right sides in the grass and spun it. He's driving the wrong way. No meatball flag, but tough deal gone worse here for Nick Olsen. As already in a bad spot, Kenneth, as far as trying to make it, just too far down in the points. And right now sitting P23, he's going to be out of the first round of the playoffs for the 2nd straight season.
And it shows you as well, Jacob, just the nature of the beast, this type of playoff system where you have a rough first race, you don't have a great second one, you get put in this hole, it is so hard to come back with your back against the wall. And so with Schildhouse getting put in that situation, same deal with Olsen, both of them having 2 strugglesome races from Richmond and from Daytona. they had to hinge on this final race. And guys, it's only going to get worse when we have our second round at Pocono and then at Chicagoland, because it's not 3 races like this one. You don't have that extra chance. You only have 2, so you have to make the most out of it. Don't want to put yourself in a hole in Schildhouse in turn 6, I believe, or turn 7.
Yes, he spun.
Spun it around. That's turn 6.
All by himself, and we're on the last lap too. That's going to cost him 3 spots. Won't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Might cost him a 4th, but just means he's going to be out a little bit more as Karam's making his way through the boot, coming back to turn 10 for the final time here, Blake.
And it has been easy pickings for Sage Karam. He went to victory lane back at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, not in the playoffs, but he got it done tonight. Sage Karam off for the final corner, and Sage Karam is going to win the Roasted Gems Coffee Challenge in a tumultuous night here at Watkins Glen, but not for car 43. Sage Karam gets it done, and it looks like battle for second is going to be close, but Chase Cavery will hang on and take it over DJ Cummings, which, by the way, shout out to that 10 car on that strategy call. Brings it home in 3rd. James Bickford will bring it home in 4th. And Corey Heim rounds out your top 5.
And for DJ Cummings, that is, again, another top 10 added to the list of his top 10s with the Porsche 911 RSR. Here's a big battle around Case Collenbach. This is around the final spot in the top 20. Well, Steve Collenbach can be able to overcome the 94 of George Balfench Jr. One more corner to go, and a quartet of cars in the mix. The 84 going to try and send it. It won't work all of them single file, but DJ Cummings, an unbelievable finish to continue his consistency with this car. But again, spotlight on Sage Karam. Dominant night, was able to get all the way back in that last stint. Second career M&R with victory.
And after all that, Matt Stallneck, who got disqualified by the sim earlier in the race, finishes in 31st and sits on the cut line. That is insane. And all Smithley had to do was not get involved in an incident. And unfortunately, there in the carousel, he and Bailey Turner get together. Oh man, what guys, I didn't think we'd have this much drama at a road course. I really didn't.
Oh, remember CTMP, you know how dramatic that was. I know that wasn't a playoff race, but we saw a lot of drama there for drivers in the front of the field, drivers in the back of the field, drivers who were having good races and then just made one mistake that took them out of it. I think this race just falls in the same category. Mistakes were key again. We saw drivers make contact, and at the most pivotal moments, the drivers wearing green on the banners of their race cars found trouble, and that's where the points sit. I mean, it's so close, and you got to think, Blake, it's going to get even closer when we get to that next round, because if we saw this competition in this elimination race, can you imagine Chicagoland in a couple of weeks?
Oh, it's going to be crazy. You think about the quality of drivers that we just eliminated from the postseason. It's pretty high. But we are going to hear from our race winner in Sage Karam and a couple of others on the other side of this break. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back for post-race coverage here from Watkins Glen International.
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going. Moss. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street. Everywhere. Interstate batteries. Outrageously dependable.
Visit our website at tuffcoflooring.com.
Get the edge on your competition with P8 Performance Gummies. Formulated specifically for gamers and the esports industry, we packed our gummies with all the good stuff, including ingredients that are clinically proven to help tired eyes, improve reaction times, and help suppress computer vision syndrome. Take your focus and endurance to the next level and try P8 gummies today. Now available at Procelerate.com. Plus, if you're mad about gaming, we're looking to partner with influencers just like you. Drop us a line at support@Procelerate.com to see if you qualify to try our gummies for free. It's officially game on with all new P8 gummies.
Back with you here from Watkins, Glen International. These are how your drivers finish. Sage Karam, Chase Cabre, DJ Cummings, and James Bickford, along with Corey Heim, complete your top 5. Adam Cabot, Reed Wilson, Presley Sora, David Schildhouse, and Bailey Turner round out your top 10, Kenneth.
We'll roll from 11th on back, starting with the 46 of Steven Ellis. Ronnie Osmer, who was quick all race long, couldn't find himself in the top 5 near the end, and he finishes this race in P12. Lane Sabile, topsy-turvy in the point standings all evening, but it looks like Sabile will indeed advance to the round of 8 after tonight's finish. He ends up in 13th. 14th will go to the 01 of Josh Slate. Michael Fisher in the 96, the final one to cap off the top 15. Ryan Vargas had damage on the rear end of his race car. Lap 1, S's up the hill, found a way to rebound, and it looks like Vargas will survive another round of the playoffs. Robbie Lyons will finish 17th. Ford Martin will come home in P18. Mark Rubilis arrives in P19 at the end of tonight's race, and 20th will go to the 94 of George Balfan Jr.
Case Kallenbach with a solid finish back in the 21st position. Justin Malillo, we know the issues that he had getting involved in a crash there toward the end. That collected Matt Stolnick. He finishes 22nd. Nick Olson eliminated after tonight. He finishes 23rd. Joey Padgett, even with the crash, he is safe, just barely. He is in P24 and will race for a championship in the next round. Will Rogers finishes in 25th. He had issues at the start of the race. Brett Baldeck finishes 26th. Anthony Alfredo involved in that crash with Garrett Smithley. They finished 27th and 28th respectively. Tough break for Smithley, who was in up until that point. Gary Sexton, rough night for him in 29th. Chris Weaver rounding out the top 30, Blake.
Matt Stolnick in 31st does transfer in through Smithley's issues. 32nd was Steve Affont. Brandon Brown finishes 33rd. Alex LeBay 34th. Michael Massey 35th. Connor Berry 36th. Max Kinnon and Devin Henry rounded out your 38 car field. But out of them all, one driver is the happiest, and right now he is caught up with Eric Estep, your winner, Sage Karam.
Sage Karam, we were watching the playoff chaos unfolding behind you, but it was way behind you, way behind you. How's it feel to get your second road course win of the season, man?
Yeah, no, it's good. I really like driving around that track, and I've had some success there and in real life, and then also in the sim as well. So it's definitely one I was looking forward to coming to and doing there with these guys. So was able to put together a good qual, and the race went almost the way I expected it to. I had some damage from a lap car there, pretty early on in the race, actually. So I took some optional repair on that first stop, and that's why I kind of got shuffled back. And from there, it was just kind of try and get through as cleanly as I could and put my head down there at the end and put in some good laps.
I was going to ask because, yes, around the midway portion of this race, we had some varying strategy. You were back in 10th for a short stint and then I think 4th or 5th on the final restart. So were you at any point concerned that you had a little bit of traffic in front of you? You weren't sure how they were going to race?
For sure, because the draft was so big as well. So I knew I would actually have trouble getting around people, if they were close to the car in front of them. So, and I had that, there were a couple times where I popped out to try and make a move going into like the bus stop and I just couldn't clear anybody, just because of the draft. So, and obviously the further back you go, the more unpredictable things happen with contact and stuff like that. So I wanted to get my way up there as soon as I could, and just as cleanly as I could. It can be a challenge sometimes, but these guys are all top-notch drivers, and it was pretty respectable out there.
Absolutely. Well, you put on a heck of a show. Second road course win of the year. What is it about this style racing? I guess it's what you're accustomed to. Like, it felt like no one, aside maybe from Corey Heim in the first, 15, 20 minutes could keep pace remotely. Just dominant, right?
Yeah, it's definitely what I'm more comfortable with, just what I grew up doing more, So, coming from the IndyCar side of things, I'm definitely more comfortable on the road courses. So, I feel like I do expect myself to be a bit better, a bit stronger on these road courses, but I definitely do want to try and get those oval results a bit better. We've had some good runs here the last few weeks, but I just kind of get into some trouble that I don't want to get into, and that's kind of the hard thing about those ovals. There's a lot more luck involved, I feel like. So hopefully, I can get that sorted and have some strong runs there and end the season strong.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the win tonight, and good luck the rest of this Monday Night Racing season, I suppose, and also the real world racing season. I know you've got a busy schedule coming up here in 2023. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Awesome stuff. That's Sage Karam, winner tonight at Watkins Glen. I believe Kenneth is standing by with the runner-up, DJ Cummings. Kenneth?
Yes, sir, indeed. Driver who finishes third is the 10 of DJ Cummings. By the way, the biggest mover of the race, 32nd on the starting grid, third at the end of 42 laps, and an unbelievable race for you, DJ. Just first of all, what was your mindset heading into that final stint with the late race restart on tap?
Well, the biggest thing there with the late race restart, I played the strategy out perfectly. Like y'all mentioned earlier, didn't get too lucky on my qualifying, got a couple of off tracks, so I had to start from the back. So you knew that first stint was going to be just all about not getting involved in one of the big ones. So we were able to get through all of that. All right. Right before that comp caution, I actually came down and stopped the second time for tires and whatnot, and topped up with fuel, which gave me just that little bit more that I needed. So when we had that full course yellow, I was save as much as I could there, and it turned out to work just about flawlessly. I was after I crossed the finish line, the car was sputtering and I ran out of gas. So strategy played out quite nice. And as I'm looking at the top five, there's which guy does not blend in with the rest of these professional drivers. This one. So not too bad. I'll take back-to-back top threes. That is a great success in my book.
Yeah, back-to-back top threes off of the second place finish at Daytona 1 week ago. But there is something, DJ, about you and this Porsche 911 RSR. You finished in the top 10 and all, but one race with this car, average finish of 5.5. I think the best out of any other driver with this car in M&R history. Is there something about these cars and these races that gets you into these consistent finishes, or is it just circumstance?
I guess you could say it's a little bit of both. When we first, I don't really run too much road racing on the iRacing service, but when we first brought this car into M&R, I was kind of hooked, and I thought it was really fun. And it's on that fine line of, it's easy to drive, but at the same time you can really get aggressive with it, and you can get it loose, and it's just really fun. And trying to, especially at a road course like Watkins Glen, you can it's all momentum based, trying to back your corners up early so that you can get the ultimate runs out of the corners so that you build those momentums going down those long straightaways. So and with all the road courses we've gone to in this car combination, it's been, I guess it's just a blessing in disguise that it seems to work out as well as it has for me. But I will take it. I am not complaining whatsoever.
We worked hard for the finish. Strategy fell in your way, and you're able to take this podium finish. We got the final 2 races before our championship finale at Homestead and Miami Speedway. 2 very intricate ovals in their own right. Pocono next week, Chicagoland after that. Any particular expectations or sort of blueprints you have for those 2 events?
No, not really. It's I'll back it up a little bit. I feel like I've had won the superlative for worst luck in M&R history in that regular season. I think it was just a combination of just so many bad things happening that I could have ended up being in the playoffs. So coming into these playoff races, there are no expectations. You just show up, run your race, and see how it ends up, and it's turned out pretty well. I think for this next round, I don't race Pocono very much, and kind of like Watkins, Glen, very momentum based. Chicagoland in the truck series is going to be all about saving your right side tires, and Homestead Miami Speedway obviously is the exact same thing about saving your tires, especially if we're able to get on a long run. And did pretty well last time around at Homestead. We'll see how I do in an Xfinity car. I thought I did pretty good in that truck race we had in the last championship, but I feel pretty good about it. But I don't go in with any expectations. Just come in, have fun, and we'll see how we end up.
Well, it looks like the luck is definitely starting to turn around. 2 straight top 3 finishes, including this one here from the Watkins Glen International Circuit. DJ, on behalf of our entire team at Podium Esports, congratulations on the podium finish, and looking forward to see you at Pocono in 1 week time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
So that is DJ Cummings in the 10 machine to round out your top 3 at the end of tonight's race. From Watkins Glen and Jacob Hitz, we have David Schildhouse, who comes home in P9. A very interesting night for the driver of the 20.
David Schildhouse coming home, just coming up short, trying to make the next round of the playoffs, and take us through the strategy, at least to get you to the front of the field, because there was a point where I thought it might have been enough to being a race-winning move, staying out there toward the end when everybody else decided to come to pit road.
The unfortunate part is that my race was pretty much over about 15 minutes into it. It was all a facade. After that, I grazed the wall coming out of the final corner within the first, 10, 15 laps, and it broke the left front pretty badly. I had about 3 minutes of damage that you just don't have time to fix. But the car wasn't right after that, and so it was just about damage limitation and trying to do everything you could to put yourself in a position. Like, I didn't expect to win. I just had to put myself in a position where if things out of my control went my way, then maybe I would steal one. And that's kind of what I did, and it kind of ended up working. Got the fuel just right, but just, wasn't able to hold on to the lead with a car that wasn't up to snuff. And, yeah, but, honestly, my playoff run was over after Richmond. I mean, let's be honest here. I knew it was going to be a really steep mountain to try and climb after that, happened, and it was all pretty desperate, but I was pretty much resigned to my fate after we left Richmond anyway. So what's happened at this point and being knocked out in the first round, I don't like it. It sucks. The competitive side of me really hates it, but I just hope I can have some sort of fun over the next 3 weeks as we finish out this season and try and get back to victory lane one more time. It's all been a really challenging season since I won Texas. I've been trying to find some bright spots. There just haven't been a whole lot of them.
Well, Pocono is coming up next week. Is the plan for driver number 20 just to go out and try and sweep these final 3 races?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, a good number of non-playoff drivers ruining everything so far in these last 3 races here in the playoffs. So not saying I'm going to employ the same strategy, but, I don't plan on racing for anybody other than me for the next 3 weeks. And I'm not going to wreck a playoff driver intentionally, but if it's side to side or I'm hunting them down for the win in the closing laps, they're not getting any breaks. I don't care who it is. I want to win a race, one more race before the season's over. My season got dashed against the rocks because of a non-playoff driver being stupid. So again, I'm not coming out here to ruin anybody's playoff run or anything, but no one's getting any breaks from me. I'm here to just try and get a couple more trophies before I call this thing done. And we put Monday Night Racing down for a little while. I was proud to represent Forever Lawn here tonight. It was cool to have them on the car for the first time this season. Wish it had gone a little bit better, but it was, trying to push all the chips to the middle of the table, and we ended up busting there at the end.
David Schildhouse, we'll see you next week from Pocono. Best of luck.
Thanks.
David Schildhouse not pulling any punches, though, guys. He's proven that he's going to drive his guts out these next 3 weeks. Pocono, Chicagoland, and Homestead, the last 3 on the schedule. Blake?
I think a lot of drivers are, Jacob, and that will just about wrap things up here for Watkins Glen International. Not a whole lot of time for these drivers to breathe, though. Just 2 races in the round of 8 before we get going next week to see and continue our quest on who is going to win the Season 6 Monday Night Racing Pro Series Championship presented by Interstate Batteries. Next Gen's at Pocono, going to be fun. So is Chicagoland. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves for next week, we have more to come from our post-race show brought to you by the guys at Front Stretch. So for myself, for Jacob Hintz, for Kenneth Bueno, for Eric Estep, I'm Blake McCandless saying so long from the booth. We'll hand things over to Michael Massey and Brennan Hoff in the Front Stretch post-race show, guys.
Thank you, Blake. We're back, guys, with another frontstretch.com post-race show. Tonight we saw a lot, Mike. It was a weird road course race, I feel like, but what did I say last week? If none of those 3 road guys show up, it was going to be anybody's race. But we had 2 of them show up, and one of them dominated. Really wasn't much of a competition.
Yeah, it was the Sage Karam show. Once again, I think we've done... Have we done 2 road courses this year? And he's dominated them both? Well, no, I think we did 3, but that Daytona...
and the Mazda? Yeah, we can't count the Mazda.
That's like a half road course, half super speedway. So, just the way that car drives there's a lot of drafting and stuff. It's not true road course. But yeah, the 2 true road course races we've had, Sage Karam just spanked the field, which was unfortunate great for him, unfortunate for the guys that needed a win to advance to the playoffs, such as Nick Olson, who we're going to have on the show in a little bit, such as David Schildhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it was an interesting battle around that cut line as well, with it looking like Garrett Smithley was in, and then he got a little squirrely in the bus stop, and then ran into somebody, and then got like
he got launched in the air, that's for sure.
Gave the spot to Matt Stolnick, who we're also planning to have on tonight. If not for that, Smithley, all he had to do was just finish where he was at. I think he was a point to the good.
Yeah.
He really didn't have to do anything crazy, and it's easier said than done, right? Just bring it home. It's easier said than done. But still a fun race. Congrats to Sage Karam and all those who have advanced to the round of 8.
Yeah. Listen, I said from the beginning of the night, once I saw Sage in the server, I was like, all right, it's going to take a major problem for anyone to have a shot. And the first part of the race, it didn't look... I know Sage checked out, but I was like, okay, with the strategy, I thought maybe there's an outside chance. Maybe if Sage gets trapped in the middle of the field or, back half the top 10, I'm like, it's not going to be too easy to drive through the field. But he made it look too easy. That first stop when everybody came in and took none, and then Sage took 4, and he dropped back to like 8th or 9th or something. He just drove I think he drove back to 5th or 6th or something. And then the caution came out, and then he got back to the front like that. I mean, he just makes it look so easy. And I'm jealous. I don't know how he makes it look so easy. He's a professional for a reason. But congrats to him. That's another dominating win. Not in the playoffs, though. That's the second win of the year, but he's not in the playoffs. And it's unfortunate because he would have advanced, and who knows? But
Yeah. Well, he was completely opposite side of the spectrum from me tonight.
yeah, Mike, what happened to you tonight? We had a little bit happen. It seemed like.
I was like, I don't know. I was just running along. I figured I would just bide my time and let people crash themselves out. I'm not a good road course racer, so just pick up spots as they fall out. On about lap 4 or 5, Steve Affont lost, overdrove a corner, lost it. So I come around the corner, and it just happens that I got loose in the same corner that he was stopping the road at. So my right rear clips him, and it just spins me out. So then I got a meatball, he's got a meatball. Then it gave you, this car was weird because it kept giving me 1 minute of required repairs, but it'd be 10 minutes of optionals. Like, all right, I'll just do the required to get back out there. It's right. How bad could it be? I pull out there and thing's crab walking. So then I tow again. Like, you can't drive that. Eventually, it was like me and Steve both double-digit laps down out there racing for 35th, door banging each other. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was just dumb for the race to be over that quickly. Eventually, I just pulled it in when I couldn't make up any, because there's a lot of racks and stuff, but only a couple people fell out. So I kept waiting to pick up spots.
Yeah.
But it just never happened. So I don't know, 35th, I think.
Your last few weeks have been pretty good. You've had a couple of good runs, and unfortunately the luck ran out this week. But you got what, 4 races left or 3 races left or something like that to to get it back and get some momentum. But yeah, I mean, listen, the overall race I thought was pretty good. Aside from the fact Sage dominated the entire race, the race from second on back was, I believe, like very entertaining. Like, it didn't seem like from that point on, like I know Corey Heim was running second for a while, but it didn't seem like, there was that clear cut second place car the entire way. Because once Corey got back to like 4th or 5th, he didn't easily drive back up there, and he didn't get back up there. Because Chase Cabre finished runner up, even though he was 10 seconds back. But we had the usual suspects up front. But strategy also played into it. David, I did like David's strategy. I thought it was very interesting that he was up front, took less fuel, and then stayed out. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end, but hey, you got to take a chance,
What happened? Did he drive off track or something? Or I heard something about it. But it's hard to tell from where I was sitting.
I know I think he drove off track or got spun or something, because I looked up, he was in like 4th or 5th. Next thing I know, he's 10 seconds behind, or 10 more seconds behind, and he's behind Presley, who was in like 8th. So unfortunately, it didn't work out. He had the right strategy to, if he had the speed to win. But unfortunately, nobody was keeping up with Sage, and he was gonna finish top 5, but yeah, I think he finished like 10th or something. But he tried it all night. He had the win. He was 30-something points back of the cutoff, and you got to do that stuff. You got to throw Hail Marys,
Yeah, I'd rather you attempt a Hail Mary than do whatever the Dallas Cowboys did in the last play of last night. That's
hey man, we're not gonna. No, we could talk about that. I'm happy to talk about that. As long as we don't talk about what happened Saturday night, I'm good with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Saturday night. That was miserable. But yeah, we can talk about the Cowboys. But no, but we'll get to our first guest here, I believe, if he's ready. I'm not sure if he is. Oh, I think he just joined us, Nick Olson, who unfortunately did not qualify for the next round, but had a very, very good race up until about 10 minutes left. Well, Nick, what happened tonight?
Wait, I didn't make it? No, I'm kidding.
You should know better than us.
You'd be surprised. And firsthand, Brandon, I think we had the second best speed tonight to Sage, who was just untouchable. I think I had even, if not a little bit better pace than Corey, who ran really strong tonight, and put ourselves in a great spot to capitalize. And would it have been a win? I don't know. But, it goes back to Daytona the week before. I shouldn't have even been in that spot anyway. So it's just impatience by people who have nothing to race for. And I guess that's why they have nothing to race for, is because they have impatience. Because they put themselves in bad spots every week and get themselves wrecked. And they're not around to see the end of the race, and they wonder what happened. So I don't know if the broadcast showed my accident. I have no issues with Anthony Alfredo. We talked after the race. I put him in a bad spot. He was kind of, he understands the situation I was in, and 3 wide going into the bus stop just does not work.
No, you found that out, unfortunately.
Thanks for reminding me. It doesn't? No way.
Hey, you almost made it work, just a little mishap there on the inside, and but no, you mentioned it. You were second place speed all night. I mean, I was watching it firsthand. I mean, you drove your way up to 5th there, and you were running down the top 4 or top 3. How confident were you middle of the race there? I know Sage was we were talking about it during the race, that Sage was trapped in that 7th, 8th spot. How confident were you could keep him back there?
Well, I wouldn't say I was necessarily confident of that. I mean, Sage was just incredible all night, and all credit to him. He's a hell of a driver, a hell of a talent, and it's great we have him here racing. But that being said, his background and strength is this kind of racing. So that's kind of what you sign up for. And we talked before the race. Essentially, we knew something would have to happen to Sage for us to have a shot. But man, if you told me that we'd be lining up in front of him on the restart, albeit 5th and 6th, I would have been a little bit surprised. But at the end of the day, we raced him hard, raced him into the bus stop 2 or 3 times until finally he worked me over. I mean, you and we borrowed Colin Fern's spotter John this week, and you guys were telling me just don't make it easy on him. Don't make it easy on him, because that really did feel like the race. But once he got by, you just gotta make do with what you have. And then we got that surprise caution, which lined us up 7th, I believe. We did all right, but just put in bad spots by people who get a run and don't really know what to do with it. And it's not really the first time that certain people have been the center of conversation in that regard.
Yeah.
Beef? Got beef?
You got some beef.
No, we got no beef. We got 3 more races to go, and I'm looking forward to them.
So what happened last week? What puts you in this points hole? Do you want to talk about it?
I'm gonna give you my opinion, and I know the other party is gonna have a much different opinion because he can do no wrong. We were riding in the back all race. Brandon can back this one up. We were riding maybe 28th to 35th the whole race, just staying out of trouble because we knew we went in there, I think 7 out. And if we had just finished the race, if it went like anything like Talladega, I know they made it to the start-finish line, which is crazy last week. But I figured, Talladega is going to happen, and we just need to pick our way through, and we'll take our 12th place, and we'll go to Watkins Glen, where I know I'm going to have speed. And certain people who were up front racing hard just didn't show any patience or regard for the car in front of them. Hit him in the right rear, spun him sideways off of turn 4. Unfortunately, right in the path of my right front tire. And with the new rules with no fast repairs, which I support in all honesty, it's nothing against the rule. We actually raced to protect ourselves from it, but it goes to show you can't really hide from stupid. And
that's fair.
I have some thoughts and prayers for the Truck Series field this year.
I love it. I love it. This is what I refrained from saying last week when I said I had nothing nice to say. This is almost what I didn't want to say, but I keep it kind. But we like to hear when the drivers say stuff like this.
Hey, it's racing. It's racing at the end of the day, and people are going to make mistakes. He and I get along. We have gotten along. We've been friends for maybe 5 years now, and he just made a mistake. But I have an issue when people don't take responsibility for their actions, and then secondly, when they don't take accountability for putting people in bad positions that don't necessarily deserve it, because they deserve the opportunity to race for a championship without shenanigans taking place.
So you'd say he's just not leaving a good legacy in this motor club of drivers, right?
Oh, he's certainly leaving his legacy.
The truck series team is,
but I don't want to be petty about it. So
I was gonna say Nick is like the king of puns when it comes to this stuff, and the fact that you opened the can of worms, Mike. Now you can keep going on for about 10 minutes with this stuff.
Yeah,
it's okay. We pick and choose what we want to say, and that's
He's trying to think of something.
Oh no, we pick and choose.
Oh, he did think of something.
Did the thing, yeah. No,
Well,
at the end of the day, we were in a bad spot, and we gave it our best, and I knew that it was going to be go for the win, or what ended up happening to us. So I have my head high, and we have 3 more races to go get a win.
Yeah, you got Pocono in the next gen next week. So how you feeling about that? I know, you race more than a lot of people in this league on iRacing. You have more experience in that car than a lot of people on iRacing. I mean, I know you're feeling a win, but what's the quota, or what's the level of confidence right now?
Well, first of all, the last thing I want to do is be a hypocrite. So I want to be kind and respectful to the playoff competitors that have advanced, and congratulations to those guys. They've raced hard, and they've earned their spots in the round of 8. But it's going to be 2 races. There's going to be a lot of intensity, and I know that they have more to lose than I do. So if I want a spot, I'm not necessarily scared to make a move early in the race or do something, because they have a lot more to lose than I do. At no point would I consider, making contact or anything like that with a playoff car. That's not what I mean. But how non-playoff drivers can dial up that aggression just a little bit more to get what they're looking for. And I intend, with 3 NASCAR tracks and NASCAR vehicles in the next 3 races here, that we can really go after it. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to doing that.
Speaking of playoffs, last season you took some flack because you made it to the playoffs.
Oh, just reel me in.
Hold on.
Wait, no, we gotta say it. We gotta say it.
Dangle the cheese. I'm gonna bite.
Come on. No, say it.
You took a lot of flack. From the other drivers in the series for taking up a playoff spot when you knew you were going to miss a race, and that affecting the playoffs. We just had another driver do the same thing, and I haven't seen nearly as much flack. How does that make you feel?
I just hope he's enjoying his vacation. Ironically, he's on the same cruise ship that I was on last year. I hear the weather's beautiful in the tropics this time of year, and I know he's probably not going to remember it when he gets home. And, I hope he has a good time. In all honesty, that is the one dig on my character that I think actually lands, because that was a horrible decision that I made, not to turn it serious, but that was a terrible decision that I made last year, and I should have given that playoff spot to Justin Malillo, who earned it. And my self-drive and selfishness told myself, you earned your spot, you gotta go race for it. And when Daytona didn't go our way that first race, and I knew I was going to miss the second race, I swear I was white as a sheet, because I knew that I made a mistake. And I went to Matt and Ford, and I was like, is there anything we can do? And they're just like, no, man, I mean, you kind of did this one to yourself. And rightfully so, I did do it to myself. But I brought a thought or mindset into this year that I was going to race with respect and race to earn respect back, that you don't race to earn respect back necessarily, but you got to do the right things out there, and end of the day, you just gotta execute. But that was a mistake, and I know Colin has a lot less regret about many things than I do. So I'm sure he's going to come back and he's going to be just as aggressive next week as he was, But he's a Final Four contender last year, and maybe he's earned the opportunity to go take a vacation. But all I know is when Ford took a vacation, he found a rig in Houston. So
that's true.
I think it seems like a lot easier to find a rig in Houston than it is in the tropics on a cruise. So, I'll give that one to Ford and Colin.
We'll give that one to Ford. Yeah.
I don't think you're going to find one on a cruise ship or an island or anything like that.
Well, hey, if anyone can find me one in LA in 2 weeks, then I'd race. But
well, there it is. There's the advertisement. He's looking for a rig in LA. Anybody want to offer it up?
Yeah.
And there you go. He can race the second to last race, I think it is, that week.
Don't be too sketchy of a person offering to me.
You're in the wrong community, man.
But Nick, thanks so much for joining us. Even though you didn't make it, move on. You still made the playoffs. You still had a great season, so I feel like you can hang your hat on that at least.
Absolutely. We got a shot at racing for 5th in points. I'm pretty sure we finished like 8th or 9th in points, missing a race last year. So in the playoffs. So tonight was obviously a pretty big hit on that quest to finish 5th, but that's still alive. Like, we can still race hard and finish 5th in points. That's the goal for people that get eliminated in real life, and that's my goal here. I just really want to thank everybody that helps me out do this. Bar Visuals, T-Patch Designs. Timmy's been awesome whipping up paint schemes for me all year. And then obviously Grit Marketing and Kyle Dagger, everybody over there. It's a great team to be a part of. And my awesome teammate, Robbie Lyons, who, God help him, does not have the breaks that he deserves running every single week in this league. He should be in the playoffs with the way he runs. He just gets, he gets taken out in things that are not his concern. And Brandon can back me up on that one,
Oh, yeah.
we all race together. So I know he's going to come back strong next season when we do come back. And I'm really excited at the prospect of Grit Esports as a whole finishing this season strong the way we deserve.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you out on another pun. You showed a lot of grit out there tonight.
Thank you.
The most obvious one.
Thank you. That was a bit of a stretch there, Michael.
That's all right. It's late. I'm tired. Let's get you out of here. But yeah,
right.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Nick.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for doing this all year.
Yeah.
Thanks
for being on, Nick. Thanks.
No problem.
Nick Olson, P23, I believe, tonight, but didn't advance, unfortunately, even though it looked like throughout the night he might have had a shot to win, but didn't end up the way he wanted. But I feel confident about him winning at least one of these last 3 races. He's been fast all year.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like you said, he had the speed tonight. He just things didn't really fall his way.
No.
And Sage was just, he needed Sage to, like, I don't know, Sage's Wi-Fi to go out for a second.
Something like that. Yeah, but even so, if he went a lap down, he probably would have made it up the way he was.
Yeah, really.
But I think we're going to flip the spectrum here. We're going to go from out of the playoffs to making it into the next round honestly, I don't know how with the way it was going, but Matt Stallneck made it in. I believe it was after the Garrett Smithley troubles. Matt, you didn't finish the race tonight. You didn't have a great run at all.
No.
Rough night, but you made it in. How?
I mean, I wish that I could say that I impacted the result. That was not the case. A lot of incompetence on my part. A lot of putting myself in bad situations that I didn't need to be in. I was running top 12, top 15 going into the break. Put myself in a bad spot and got some damage right before the break. And then it was just like a series of unfortunate events like after that. Some of which were just me being frustrated and putting myself in positions that I didn't need to be. So yeah, it's disappointing. It really is. Like I wish that I was more excited about. I mean, the advancement's amazing. Just to speak to that for a little bit. I mean, you guys know this at this point. Like this is a very difficult league to be competitive in on a week to week basis, and it's been a great season. And it would have been really disheartening to not make it due to some of the stuff that kind of went down in the race tonight. But you want to feel like you're going into the next round with some real momentum. And I felt like I was and our team was heading into tonight. And when you have a night like that, it just kind of sucks all the air out because you want to be running up front consistently at different kinds of racetracks. And this was not one of those nights. Unfortunate what happened to Garrett. I hate that happened to him. I had resigned myself to the fact that I was out at that point. But you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this league's super unpredictable. Guys race really hard. Bailey and Garrett were racing really hard. I'm not entirely sure why they were racing that hard. I suppose only they can answer that. But I had enough points from the weeks prior, which went really well, and that's what these playoffs are all about. At the end of the day, you don't want to have to use a mulligan, but if you run well enough in the first two races, you kind of get one. And we needed to burn one tonight, and that ultimately was the reason we advanced.
Yeah, I was just wondering if somehow you figured out a way to like send a virtual deer to run out in front of Garrett Smithley or something, and that's what caused them to lose this. Because it's like all you had to do was just bring it home, and
that's the part I don't get. I don't get it. I don't know. I mean, I watched the replay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. If I was in his situation, I would have been. I don't know. I was in his situation early in the race, and I still drove like an idiot. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, man. This is not my strong suit. I practiced a good bit and felt like I was in a pretty good spot, running top 15 for most of the race, and before the damage and everything set in. But I don't know, man. It's frustrating. I hate that as a league that we put ourselves in these positions where we're reckoning like that, and having that kind of, whether it was his incidents, stuff that I was involved in, stuff that I saw other people get involved in. You want to be deciding this stuff on the racetrack ultimately. And I didn't think that was the case tonight, so I was disappointed in that regard for sure. But look, gotta go eyes forward. That's all you can do. You got a huge opportunity to make a championship run. It would mean a lot to me to get to that championship 4 race, given the caliber of drivers that are involved in this league, and just how long I've been sim racing, waiting for something like Monday Night Racing to come along, and to get a chance to go compete for that thing would be very personally meaningful. So yeah, huge opportunity. That's all I'm focused on right now.
Sure. Now you've been sim racing a long time. Another guy that's been sim racing a long time is Justin Malillo. What's been going on between you two? It seems like you guys aren't exactly the best of friends out on the track right now.
Maybe I'll squash one. I mean, Justin's a good dude. Like I don't have any sort of issue with Justin. He's a very nice guy. He does some amazing work, and he's really moved the industry forward, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, as for what happened tonight, we talked after the race. I mean, I'll be the first to say I thought it was intentional at first, and we talked. I mean, he says it wasn't. I'll take him at his word. It didn't look great at first. I don't know. I mean, he claimed that I think he didn't have his relative on, so he wouldn't have known it was. I don't know. I mean, I've been in that situation before, so I'm the last person who should judge. At the end of the day, I mean, heat of the moment aside, because you always get mad in the heat of the moment, right? You're gonna yell, you're gonna scream at somebody, and you're gonna say that they're an idiot, and that they're wrong, but until you reflect on it a little bit, you can't say with certainty what was going through somebody else's head. So he claims he wasn't. He's a good person. I will take him at his word on that. As for like the rest of the season, look, we both run up front. We both run towards the front a lot of weeks, and there have been some situations this year where I've run him over. I've owned that. I can be very aggressive. I don't apologize for being aggressive. and we've had some disagreements because of that. Nothing personal. Justin's an awesome dude. I think after tonight that this won't continue. I believe it won't. And hopefully he feels the same.
Yeah, for sure. Looks like we had some technical difficulties and have lost Brandon for a second, but sure he'll be back on momentarily. We're looking at the points reset now.
Yeah.
And there you are. You made it through, but now you got your work cut out for you. It looks like, although it's only 3 points.
I look at that 10-point deficit to the lead. To me, that's nothing. I mean, you saw what happened tonight. Like, those points can evaporate in a matter of minutes. In this league, in any league that employs a playoff system like this, I fully expect that those 8 guys, myself included, are going to be running in the top 10 for the duration of both of these races that are coming up. I think it's going to be intense racing. I think it's good. We have 2 tracks that I think are going to allow talent to rise, and whoever the 4 is that deserve that, I believe are going to get there with the tracks that we have coming up. Pocono is going to be interesting. I don't believe we've ever run Pocono in the history of this league in any combination. So I think it's a huge unknown. And it's a very technical racetrack that I think you're going to see long green flag runs. And I think strategy is certainly going to come into play. So I'm going balls to the wall. I didn't necessarily think I would make it this at the beginning of the season. I didn't necessarily think I'd be in this position. Midway through the season, I thought there was a chance just based on how I felt I was running, just where the field was competitively. So, I feel blessed to kind of be in the position that I'm in and that my teammates have kind of helped put me in. And I'm just eyes forward trying to get there. A championship would mean, I can't even describe to you how much it would mean. It's a big accomplishment. This, in my opinion, next to something like the Coke Series, I don't know if you'll find a championship that carries the kind of weight that this championship does in terms of just the impact that this league has on the broader community, both sim racing and real life racing. And you saw like with someone like Presley's our champion last year, and he's stepping into real race cars now, and really helping set himself up for a good real life racing career. So I'm not suggesting that would necessarily happen for me. I'm 30, Presley's like 18, so a little bit of a different situation there. But as far as a sim racing accomplishment goes, it's massive, and the people that you get to compete against week after week make it worth it. These are some of the best in both real life and sim racing. So yeah, I'm eyes forward, and I want it bad, man.
Yeah, you kind of answered what I was gonna ask about what like it would mean to you to win a title like this. You barely made the playoffs, number one. After you've had a great season, like you talked about, and the competition level, like we talked about all season long, has been intense to say the least. You barely make it into the playoffs. Now you barely squeak into the next round. I mean, and you kind of said you're going to go balls to the wall here. And that's got to just, I mean, how does it feel to just have that approach and it feels like you're not feeling any pressure and you're just going to be like, hey, I wasn't really expected to be here, but I expected it for myself. I'm out to prove people that I could do this. And, we're going to just try to bring home a championship.
It's the most motivating thing for anybody that competes. I don't know if we would call us athletes, but if you want to, call us athletes, like anybody that competes at a high level and whatever it is, whether it's sim racing or real racing or chess or football, whatever. Like if you feel like no one's believing in you and that the world's kind of doesn't believe you can do it, like that's going to motivate you. And I mean, I definitely feel like, look at the caliber of the drivers, whether it's sim racing talents like Adam that are in this, that are deep in the playoffs right now, or real life guys that do this for a living, like Ryan Vargas. Like, of course those guys are going to be the favorites. And I mean, I've squeaked by, but I know what I'm capable of as a driver, And that, to me, that's all that matters. And the only person I can disappoint is myself. And if I execute the way that I know I'm capable of, there's no reason why I can't get to the Final Four and then go hoist the championship. I mean, I don't feel pressure, because at the end of the day, like, you can only feel pressure if you have an expectation that, usually an external expectation that you're not meeting. And I don't feel like that's the case in this case. So yeah, no pressure. Like, whatever happens, happens here. It's a blast that we get to do this, and it's a blast to be able to be this deep in a championship of this caliber. And whatever happens here is gravy. So yeah, no pressure. It's pure motivation. I just want to prove people wrong.
Nice. You kind of have that, like, that Ryan Newman 2014.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Just kind of skating
The stat line probably lines up. I mean, we've been like a 6th to 7th place car a lot of weeks. And yeah, I mean, we're in the top 8 right now. So yeah, screw it. I'll take a Ryan Newman championship. Why not?
Almost
You need
won the
consistency.
championship.
You got to have consistency in this league, and I think that's something that you see with some of these guys that are super fast, but like they don't get results. And if you can put up results, whether it's me or anybody else, you don't necessarily have to be winning every week, but you just got to survive in advance.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, now, as you know, you yourself being part of the M&R leadership, I got a recommendation for you. The next road course race, why don't we start Sage Karam a lap down? And then he can't get any free pass. He has to earn his laps back the old-fashioned way. Just for entertainment purposes.
Yeah, I mean, the carnival barker in me says, yeah, let's do it. I'm sure. And you know what? Maybe Sage. Maybe it would be a little even extra motivation for Sage. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Maybe like we just put him at the rear. Maybe not a lap down. A lap down would be pretty insane to like get that back. But maybe he gets an EOL at the start of it. He gets like a cash bonus or something if he wins it.
Kind of like there's that clean driver award. You need like that extra bonus if he starts wherever he starts.
Well, we're not handing out that money every week because everyone just wrecks. So
yeah. Well,
we may as well
not tonight.
They may as well put it towards something that is actually going to allow us to pay it out. So yeah, maybe we'll put Sage at the rear and say he can get $100 if he can win the thing or something. I'm sure he'll love that.
That'd be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I
don't know. It's not a bad idea.
It's like some local short track kind of stuff. You like the bounties and all that. They do, but
yeah, I like it. That's exactly what it's like. I like it.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, congrats on making it to the next round. Sorry you didn't have a better, momentum building race to go into the next round with, but you're there. You made it. You're still alive for the championship. So we're interested to see if you can bring that trophy home or not.
I want you guys to get sick of talking to me by the end of the season. If we do that, then we know that I'll have succeeded. So Stay tuned. I think I'll surprise some people.
Sure.
Well, if you're on the show another time, that means something good had to have happened.
Well, or something really notably bad happened that was worth talking about. And you know what? That's just as good.
Fair enough. So we got both ends.
Yeah.
You and Justin Malillo actually met up and had a fist fight, and we have you on after that.
He's a lot bigger than me. He'd probably take me.
And we'd have somebody record it, and then we'd be playing it like his B-roll in the background.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Hey, it's all about making it go viral, right? Make this series
That's right.
go viral.
That's right.
But yeah, thanks again. Thanks so much for
thanks,
joining
Matt.
us.
You got it,
good
guys.
luck the rest of the season.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate
Yep,
you.
thanks, Matt. Well, he made it in again. I mean, it's like deja vu from a couple weeks ago when we were talking about him barely making the playoffs, and now here we are. If it wasn't for Garrett, and he's right, if it wasn't for Garrett, he wouldn't be in. And even though Garrett was only, I think he was 2 points ahead.
Yeah,
He just had to kind of back out of that, and he probably would have been in. But
yeah, he could have just maintained his position, but I think Matt was still about to lose a spot
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you were right.
I feel like Garrett was pretty safe. I mean, maybe he could have given up a spot and still been good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess it's against the racer in you to just lay down and take where.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. If you're a racer, and I mean, I'm not a racer in real life. All I do is the iRacing stuff when I race. But when a racer's told you have to back it down, you have to points race, you have to not be aggressive, not make any passes, just kind of stay where you are. They hate that stuff. They never want to be told that. They're like, most are like full attack, 100%. Like, I'm gonna take everything I get. None are gonna be like, all right, just play cool, and if I lose a spot, no big deal. Nobody wants to be that way. Everybody loves to just attack 100% of the time.
And to be fair to Smithley, like that's what he has to do with his real job.
Yeah,
having
exactly.
The Xfinity Series for BJ McLeod this year, where BJ McLeod's all about bring the thing home in one piece, right?
Yeah,
get as best finish you can, but bring the car back in one piece. So this is really his chance to get up on the wheel and be aggressive. So I don't
for sure
from that respect.
Yeah, I mean, these real life guys, they're aggressive, and they're gonna show what they got on the sim. And Garrett's had a good season. Let's face it. I mean, tonight unfortunately was it didn't go his way. It was going well for a while until 5 minutes ago, whenever that happened. But he's had a good season. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. But hey, one person's misfortune is somebody else's what do they call it? Fortune, right?
Yeah,
I forget the saying. There's a saying that something like that. But But looking forward to next week. Now we have the next gen of Poconos we talked to Matt and Nick about. And Matt said never has this league raced Pocono, so it's gonna be new to some. I think it's new Pocono, by the way, because iRacing did rescan it about 3 years ago, I think, or something like that, or 2 years ago. So I'm guessing the usual suspects are gonna be up front, and I think the guys who have experience on iRacing, like at Pocono, like a Nick, they'll be the ones that are going to be tough to beat, like a Presley probably, or an Adam Cabot. I'm looking for those guys all to be up front. I'm going to assume you have the same thought process here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Presley, Chase Cabry.
Yeah, Chase too, yep.
Adam Cabot, they're all going to come ready to play. Joey Pageant. I think Joey Pageant gets that first win before the year's out, and it might be the championship race with him hoisting.
Could be, honestly.
That'd be an incredible way to get you first. Do it Daniel Hemrick style. But yeah, it'll be the usual suspects. Have you driven a next gen car at Pocono?
I have.
Can you tell me what it's like at all?
It's not easy, I'll tell you that. I mean, it's much tougher than what the Gen 6 was, because with the Gen 6, when they went down to the 550, you're only going like 180, 185 into the corner. Not even 185, probably about 182, 3, I don't even know. And the downforce was a lot higher. So, you were able to, slow down for the corner. And then you could pretty much accelerate right away. And the thing would just stick. Now with the next gen, you have 5 gears. You have the 5-speed transmission. So you go from 5th to 4th, I believe, into turn 1. You probably can go down into 3rd with as slow as you might be going. So the shifting aspect is going to be interesting to see who can make it work and who might not be able to. But it's not easy to drive around there, and the draft is going to come into play into turn 1 as it usually does. Speeds will probably be close to 200, maybe 195. So, it's not going to be anything like what we saw. I mean, it's going to be pretty realistic, I think, to what we saw in real life at Pocono. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a 2-groove track on iRacing. I think it's going to be more of a single groove. You could make the outside work to an extent in turn 3 if you pinch somebody down, but I think it's going to be a fun race just because I think the art of the unknown for a lot of people. Like I said, obviously the people that have experience on iRacing are going to probably have the advantage, but I think overall it's going to be a good race. I'm looking forward to it, especially now in the playoff. And it's funny where this race falls in the playoffs. Like, first race, never been there for a lot of people, and we're going there with like 3 races left. So it's gonna be entertaining. I'm I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. It'll really, whoever figures it out, they'll have the huge leg up on, on the championship, really. So, it's pretty cool. I mean, you're just dropping an unknown on us, and I'm glad it's not like another super speedway. I love super speedway racing, but like, just something where it really does take skill. It takes the adaptability, and it'll be fun. It's all about racing the course there, Pocono for the most part, because it is tough to pass. It's all about kind of not making mistakes. I don't know, like the tunnel turn is underrated. It's such a cool turn. Because you're just hauling it into the it's just a tremendous feeling going through that. But yeah, I'm excited to see it. Pocono's a great track. It was what we talked about last time. People hate it. It's a great track.
I'm biased because it's the closest track to me, but it's a fun track to drive. I'll say that from having driven on iRacing. But looking forward to it. And another thing is too, the field does get spread out pretty easy at Pocono. So, we might see a lack of cautions next week. I don't know, because unfortunately, it just seems like we can have the cleanest race for the first half or 3/4. And then next thing you know, we'll have that final pit stop if it's under green. And next thing you know, boom, we have 5 cautions in a row. And then we have 10, 15 wrecked drivers. And then we have 2, 3 fights in the voice chat. And, that's always how it works. But I and with the playoffs, it's gonna be ramped up. So
the strategy too, because you can pit and not go a lap down.
Yeah, so that too.
Somebody might short pit and catch a caution, and it works out for them.
It's like a road course. Everybody always talked about Pocono. You can work like kind of a road course strategy. You can kind of run the race backwards in a way.
Absolutely.
But it depends on where you are in the field. But it's gonna be entertaining. But I think that's gonna do it for tonight. We thank Nick and Matt for joining us. We're looking forward to next week. Again, same time, Podium Esports, I believe 7:45 Eastern, they will go live on twitch.tv/Podium Esports right here. Thanks for tuning into the frontstretch.com post-race show. I am Brandon Hoff. That is Michael Massey. And we'll see you guys next week.